It is 10 a.m. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Tennessee Titans officially signed quarterback and number one pick Cam Ward to his rookie deal on Wednesday, a fully guaranteed 4-year contract worth over $48 million, including $32 million in a signing bonus. The SEC baseball tournament continues in Hoover. Tennessee's bats came alive in a 15-10 win over Bama on Wednesday. The Vols face 1-seed Texas this afternoon in a game scheduled for 3 p.m. Coming up at 11, Auburn and Texas A&M will throw first pitch, and Vanderbilt begins its campaign tonight against Oklahoma at 6:30. Nashville Soccer Club came back to win 3-2 at Orlando City Wednesday, advancing to the U.S. Open Cup quarterfinals, where they will host D.C. United in July. Wyatt Myers' first career goal in the 79th minute, providing the game winner. Nashville will jump back into MLS play Saturday at Toronto. NBA playoffs, Jalen Brunson scored 43, but the Knicks gave up a 14-point lead with less than 3 minutes left in regulation, losing in OT 138-135 to the Pacers in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Tyrese Halliburton, 31 points and 11 assists for Indiana. Stanley Cup playoffs, the Oilers led 3-1 in the third, but the Stars rallied at home with 5 goals in the third period, taking Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals 6-3. Also on Wednesday, Indianapolis Colts owner Jim Irsay passed away peacefully in his sleep, according to a statement by Colts COO Pete Ward. Irsay was 65. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Nothing makes me as happy as seeing New York Knicks fans in utter shambles. Good morning. Happy Thursday. Good to be back. We've sent Robert to the shadows for the rest of the week. Lucas and Jackson and me and Ross for some reason until 1 o'clock. 615-737-1045 is the number. The F&M Bank chat also at your disposal if you would like to live stream today's show. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. It took overtime for my Indiana Pacers to get it done last night in the Garden. An incredibly important win for that team to be able to go on the road and steal Game 1 from the New York Knicks. Nothing better. Teams and players talk about this a lot, but it's fun to appreciate it as a fan, too, watching it on television in an opposing arena. Nothing makes you happier as an opposing fan watching your team play on the road than shutting up about 20,000 people who thought for sure they were just going to waltz on through in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Good morning, boys.
Although, let it be known that not once in now over 4 years of this show have you ever professed your love for the Indiana Pacers, or even let it be known that you are even a casual Indiana Pacer fan.
We're going to do a lot of Sirs talk around here. You guys going to let I already get away with too much Indiana basketball talk. You going to let me do Pacers talk?
I mean, in fact, you recoil at even the mere thought or allegation that you may be an Indiana sports fan, pro sports fan, when it comes to the Colts. So my eyebrows are raised at you. I'm just saying, sounds very bandwagon-y to me. What's happening right here?
The fan police are back.
Fan police. I'm suited up. My badge firmly planted on my chest.
We should get you a badge.
We should. I will gladly wear a fan police badge.
I'm going to have Ross. In fact, that's about the only productive thing Ross can provide to the radio show today, other than eating Ramon Foster's day-old food, is to, I would like you to draw a star, color in a star, and we'll put it on his chest. Make sure it's the right kind of star. I don't want to be accused of ethnically discriminating in the way that some people do when they put stars on their chest. Look at Ross. He's confused back there. But yes, we will make Lucas his official sheriff's badge as the fan police. Blue-collar gold swagger, baby. The Sirs are back.
I want it to be like the Wild Wild West when like a Texas Ranger just had a shoddy little badge that looked like it was made by a child. But it made people obey federal law. So that's the direction I want to go with.
You see this tiny little piece of metal?
Yes.
This makes me your boss.
Yes.
No, in fact, I've changed my mind. He doesn't deserve a sheriff's badge. He needs a deputy badge. because nothing would bother him more than having to wear a deputy badge around me.
That's fine. Deputy, constable, I don't care as long as I get to be the fan police, because you are no Pacer fan, but I'll let you go ahead and claim it if you want. I am claiming the Knicks in this postseason, but fully acknowledging that I'm on the bandwagon, the bing bong bandwagon.
Sure.
So that was tough last night.
Oh, but you're not rooting for New York.
I am rooting for New York.
Why?
I'm rooting for New
what?
York.
Who roots for New York in anything?
I love look, the Knicks are, like, I know it's New York, but they're still these pesky underdogs in a way also, and the chaos of their fan base is hilarious to me.
I'm out on the Knicks fans after they started throwing trash bags at that poor Pacers fan just wandering the streets of New York in a jersey.
This was
the series even began.
Literally the comeback of the century in the NBA.
Scoop points out correctly that I'm a front runner, which is absolutely so. I am not interested in losing anything at all, ever. So, yes, I will always bandwagon to the fullest effect. I have always been a front runner, and I will always be a front runner. So, in that case, blue collar, gold swagger. Yes, indeed, it took overtime for the Pacers to get it done in Madison Square Garden last night. It was an electric game all the way through, even down to Tyrese Halliburton doing the Reggie Miller choking symbol in honor of Reggie, who was on the call of the game for TNT last night. It was beautiful. Halliburton was asked in his post-game press conference about said celebration. A much more, I don't know who looked more expressive in their choking signage, whether it was Halliburton last night or Reggie Miller many, many years ago. But the facial expressions of both of them are delightful. This was Tyrese Halliburton in the post-game press conference last night.
In the moment, I mean, I wasn't like plotting on it or anything. Everybody wanted me to do it like last year at some different point. But it's just gotta feel right. And it felt right at the time. If it would have been, if I would have known it was a 2, I would not have done it. So I think I might have wasted it. If I do it again, then people might say I'm like aura farming. So I'm not, I don't plan on using it again.
Aura farming. Is that are we now? All right, somebody give me an Urban Dictionary reading of aura farming, preferably raw, so I can make fun of his voice at some point today. Are you prepared for this already? You are already at the microphone. You have to turn on the microphone.
Aura, obviously. First off, I'm glad you said it right instead of saying aura like you used to in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But aura farming is basically it's kind of clickbaiting for aura. Like you're doing something to try to force aura upon yourself. And they're insinuating that Tyrese Halliburton, or he's saying that about himself. He's saying, I'm kind of just drawing attention and gaining aura.
So describe to me the difference between aura farming and clout chasing.
Sounds like the same. Could be a synonym.
I have the official definition.
Urban Dictionary? Be careful.
Wiktionary.
Okay. I don't know what I'm unfamiliar.
Me too. The behavior of a character exaggerating certain desirable character traits, such as their own charm.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought it was charming. I'm sure New York didn't think it was charming last night. Did you see what Reggie Miller did before the game? Because obviously they were in New York for the game. He's just sitting on a park bench somewhere. I don't know if he's in Central Park, but he's somewhere in New York and just sitting at a park bench, seeing if Knicks fans or people in New York will come up to him and say anything to him, because he is supposed to be one of the most hated figures in New York basketball lore, given the last time that the Knicks were even at this level. It was Reggie Miller and the Pacers undermining them. So it was funny to watch him do that. It was like he was live streaming on Instagram and just seeing how many Knicks fans would come up to him and say something nasty, and they were all very complimentary, as a matter of fact.
This was the first time since detailed play-by-play started being kept in the 97-98 NBA season that a team up 14 with less than 3 minutes left in a game loses. Teams leading by 14 or more in the final 2 minutes, 45 seconds of a fourth quarter had been 994-0 since that detailed play-by-play started being kept in the late 90s. Teams down 9 or more points in the final minute of the fourth quarter or overtime were 0 and 1,414. That 0 is now a 1 because of what the Pacers did last night.
New York basketball.
And the thing is, the Knicks even started overtime with a little bit of momentum. A little 4-0 spurt to start the overtime period. You thought, okay,
I was worried in the first half because Pacers couldn't hit a shot. They're the best remaining shooting team in the postseason, and it felt like they couldn't buy a shot last night. I mean, hell, Obi Toppin missing dunks and things like that. It was very, very frustrating. The only thing that was keeping them in that game is the fact that the Knicks were turning the ball over at an incredibly high rate, and then things kind of settled down. I was not prepared to lose to Karl Anthony Towns. I don't like chippy, chesty Karl Anthony Towns. I'm not down for that, not just because I hated him as a Kentucky basketball player, and it gave me great joy when that team lost to Wisconsin when he was still at Kentucky that was vying for to compete with Indiana for the last undefeated college basketball season. I don't know if you remember that. I think I was still in college. It's been a while, but
I remember that very well.
I was not prepared to. Oh, who was that goofy-looking big man who went to the Charlotte Hornets from Wisconsin?
Kaminsky?
Frank Kaminsky, that's right.
From Wisconsin?
The Cats killer made me very, very happy. Either way, I was not prepared to deal with Karl Anthony Towns swaggering all over New York after hitting clutch threes. More threes last night than he hit against the Celtics in that entire series leaning up in the second round, but it was a fun basketball game. I know New York is just sick to their stomach, which again delights me because go Sirs.
Tyrese Halliburton, 31 points, 11 assists. I mean, towards the end there, it felt like time after time in that late surge where, he'll get the ball, top of the key, pump fakes the three, defender flies by, misses the three, and then there is, who was it? It was Obi Toppin there to clean it up on a dunk. Mm-hmm. That carbon copy play happened multiple times during that comeback. And then the drama at the end of his toe being on the line, the way the ball went off the back iron, up and in. It's over. No, it's not. We're going to overtime. Oh, but he's done the choke sign, and he's going to regret that. And they win anyway. What a thriller. And it drowned out an incredible comeback in the Stanley Cup playoffs where the Oilers
I didn't see any of the hockey.
3-1 lead for Edmonton going into the third in Dallas, and the Stars rattle off 5 goals in the third period to win 6-3, taking game 1 of the Western Conference Finals in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Awesome.
So playoffs have been rowdy for the last few weeks.
I've been begging you to talk about the basketball, and it's only until like the last week and a half where I don't know if you're betting or what has piqued your interest in the NBA.
I'm not betting. It's hard for me to really be locked in the first round. I'll watch it.
There's too many games. That's fair.
A lot going on. But it really has been must-see TV, man. When Slay was in here talking about that correlation between the face of the NBA being a wide-open race and also the Larry O'Brien Trophy being a wide-open race is a fascinating dynamic to me. It has been so much fun to watch. And still have the Stanley Cup playoffs. We could get a rematch feasibly. Oilers lost last night, but if Edmonton moves on and the Panthers cruised in game 1, we could certainly get a rematch. Also, lots of former Preds still in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Don't love that.
Matt Duchene, who scored last night for the Stars. Mikael Granlund also part of that Stars comeback.
Complicated former Preds Duchene that I can remember, at least in recent history.
Yeah, I mean, Granlund had a goal and an assist. He had some complicating narratives around him also. So, man. This time of year, we act like after the draft is this desert wasteland of sports, but I'm having a ton of fun watching these games every night.
I was about to say, the only thing that we actively ignore because neither of us know how to talk about it intelligently is Major League Baseball. Like, we can do college baseball, and the Vols did win against Alabama yesterday.
Yep, 3 o'clock today against Texas.
A good way to stop their skid in SEC play that was leading up to the SEC tournament. I caught a good bit of that yesterday while I was I was not supposed to work today, but you were so desperate, it seems, to have me back, which is cute, that I decided that I would grace you with my presence.
Yes, that sounds just like me. Please, Buck, please come back.
I'm pretty sure that was literally the text. I think I have receipts on my phone because I think the worst version of this show is just you and Jackson. How's that make you feel back there? Welcome back.
Hey, buddy.
I'm convinced.
Nashville,
so you're welcome.
Nashville SC also getting it done last night in comeback fashion in U.S. Open Cup. I have
your soccer talk at the very, very end of the show.
There's a lot going on. A lot to unpack in this point in the summer.
Indeed. So, speaking of unpacking, I was in South Florida for the last couple of days. I did see Brian Callahan's press conference and a good portion of what the players had to say, but we are going to recap what I might have missed for your edification coming up next as far as the Titans go. We also have, Sheamus has ghosted us once. How do we feel? How do we feel today? I feel much more confident because his wife is apparently involved now.
We'll keep swinging.
Okay, so Sheamus is scheduled to join us at 11:20 because, of course, the Titans are one of the teams who have finally gotten into the international marketing, and Ireland is their first international market where they are licensed to now start selling their merchandise internationally. Dan Lust is also going to join us because one of the stories that happened while I was gone is Zakai Ziegler What details specifically, well, I guess overarching, do I need to know other than he's trying to come back, which could complicate things, honestly.
Lot to discuss.
All right, very good. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. We'll talk some Titans. Coming up next, I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone.
It's time for a spinoff of NFL headlines with Lucas Panzica.
It's not even funny it's disrespectful to the audience what you're doing with that music.
Tennessee Titans specific headlines, in fact, because Cam Ward has inked his rookie deal officially. And imagine going back not even that long ago, 6-7 years, and showing somebody what the number 1 overall pick would be getting in the NFL draft as he signs a 4-year, fully guaranteed deal worth $48.75 million, including a $32 million signing bonus that is up from last year when Caleb Williams, the number 1 overall pick, signed a 4-year, $39.4 million deal with the Chicago Bears, including a $25.5 million signing bonus.
So the money is notable, but that makes sense, right? Those things are going to go up year over year. And I the thing that the biggest takeaway from him signing his deal on May 22nd is, it's so nice to just not have to deal with the drama of, remember how long it took Corey Davis to sign his, or Mariota?
Mariota, it took a minute too. But it's one of those things
that they were working through some language like he couldn't surf or something like that.
Right. But like that stuff always gets done, right? Like always
gets done.
You never,
unless you're Shamar Stewart
exactly,
there.
Which is why that's such a big story. And we talked about it yesterday, the comedy of the Bengals not wanting to pay their best pass rusher and then drafting someone to replace him and now not paying this rookie because he can't agree to terms on a damn rookie contract. Oh, man. So anyway, Cam Ward got his deal. Congratulations to him. And Brian Callahan, you were out when he spoke the other day as they are in phase 2 of the offseason program. Phase 3 will start next week when they can actually do some offense versus defense stuff. But for now, they've been split up into 8 teams. They've had various different ways to compete, these teams against each other, different positions being clumped together to get to know one another, playing telephone and things like that. I don't think they're actually playing telephone, but that's what comes to mind for me.
They're playing tug-of-rope. Telephone is not so far. It's not such a reach.
There's some summer camp activities to bring everybody together. But in all seriousness, we played this back on Tuesday, and we'll roll it back around because I think it's important. This was Brian Callahan talking about the emphasis on trying to develop some leadership within this team for the 2025 season.
It's something that we've really put a lot of work into. What I mean by that is it's an emphasis for us as well. Just like we emphasize trying to eliminate those negative plays and our execution, there is a leadership emphasis. And part of the reason I did what I did with our dividing our team up into teams is now they're all accountable to each other on that team. There's a leadership that starts to grow because now each team has a captain and an alternate, and now you've got more people in leadership spots. One of the things I think is unique about the process is it allows those guys to start to find their own voices, and it's not about an offense versus defense. It's much more of a holistic team approach to it. We encourage these guys to spend a lot more time together, both in the building and out of it. It's been a focus for us, and I think you can develop leadership. I don't think leaders are necessarily just walk into a room ready to lead. I think there's skills you have to learn. You have to have the communication as a leader. You have to know your teammates. We spend a lot more time trying to get to know each other on a level that I think is going to be beneficial to fostering more leadership for more people. One of the things I tell our team all the time that I think is really important is a lot of times you ask people, how do you lead? And most people say, I lead by example. And my retort to that is there's really no such thing in pro sports. Leading by example is the expectation. That's your job, to be on time, to do what you're supposed to do, to work hard, to study. That's part of that's in your contract, And so my challenge to our team this year was to do more of the things that require bringing people with you, making other people better. And so leadership is something that we talk a lot about. It's a focal point of our off season, and the idea is that you develop a team full of leaders, and everyone has different styles. But it's something that I think the more people you have that are comfortable in those roles and understand that it's more about how you interact with people and how you make people around you better, that part of it I think is something I'm excited about. So,
God, they must have been down bad last year, huh?
That's what we talked about.
Microphone on.
That's what we talked about earlier this week. Clearly, it was.
Which is the thing that I was saying all last year, and then every time we talked to Jeff about it, he'd be like, no, I've been around teams that are devoid of leadership, this, that, and the other. And I guess what is he going to say in the locker room in real time when they're going through these things?
Yeah. But what do you want him to say? No, we don't have any leaders. He's supposed to be that team's leader last year.
We're looking for explanations as to why you're the worst team in football beyond just the product on the field, and this seems like it would have somewhat of a direct correlation as to why you were so bad last year.
Yeah.
Yes, I would like to know these things.
And again, I don't think that it's the same thing to say that a team was without leadership and a team had a toxic locker room and a toxic culture.
I didn't say that.
Those things are, no, I know you didn't, but I'm saying those things are different. I don't think the Titans had a toxic culture, but they certainly didn't have any leadership last year if they're going at these lengths to try to manufacture it this year. And the leaders are going to have to come in the form of the newcomers, right? In Kevin Zeitler, defensively with Cody Barton in the middle of that defense as the only entrenched starter at the linebacker spot.
They didn't have it, so they went out and got it.
Yeah, and in Cam Ward. Like this entire draft class has elements of that. A lot of them team captains out of college. We know the influence Cam Ward can have in that respect. So huge emphasis this offseason.
So that was never a question really under the last two coaches, right? Because they had such established leaders across the board that you didn't even have to think about.
Well, Vrabel inherited leaders, right? He inherited a team with leadership.
And you know, whatever you think of Mike, and you can, maybe it's me gaslighting him again, but like, the guy runs the room as soon as he walks into the room. There's no disputing that.
But he also had Jarrell Casey and Kevin Byard and Ben Jones.
Absolutely. Well, they signed Ben when Mike came in.
So they signed Ben in 2016.
Was it 16?
Yeah.
You're right, because it was the same year as DeMarco Murray.
Yeah, Ben played for Malarkey.
Okay, very good. So they had a couple of different dynamics under Malarkey and Vrabel that they didn't have to worry about, and now under Callahan, or at least in year one under Callahan, they were having to figure it out. Now, of course, there's a great many reasons why. Tannehill gone. All the different names that you just mentioned gone. Derrick Henry gone. Even because Derrick is like, I would push back on Callahan by saying Derrick Henry is a leader on a variety of different fronts, but Derrick leads by example. He's not an extrovert that way, right? He goes out there, he does his job. He does his job better than just about anybody at that position does their job, and that is leading by example. That's fine. I would say that Derrick Henry goes above and beyond the call of duty. So leading by example for Derrick that way, fine by me. The way, and I was reading more about this and listening back to the press conference last night as I was getting ready for today. So they've divided them up into 8 groups during the offseason work, and they're competing against one another within the same team, which I kind of like the dynamics of. It is a little gimmicky, but like whatever it takes for them to be a competent NFL football team, if it works, then we can talk about the residual impact of that after the fact. I am curious as to whether it will work or not. I think the thing that gives you the most confidence about it is that Cam Ward will now be the quarterback, and I think that when you put Will Levis in those situations, what was emblematic of the Will Levis experience beyond just the play on the field? That each week when we spoke to him, he looked worse and worse physically, not even just like from a health standpoint, but just the body language, right? The way that his shoulders would slump, the way that his demeanor, his tone, all these different things.
Swings in emotion, right?
And I don't fault him at all, because as I've said a million times over, I wouldn't wish that situation on anybody, what he went through last year and what he put himself through, of course, as well. But like, that can't be the face of your franchise. That just simply can't. It's kind of how I feel about Aaron Rodgers with his body language sometimes, but the difference with Aaron Rodgers and Will Levis, obviously, is that Aaron Rodgers is so overwhelmingly talented that he could get away with being a bit of a malcontent.
And accomplished, yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure.
They tried to shoehorn Will Levis into a lot of things, right? They tried to shoehorn him into having the starting job, into being the franchise quarterback, building around him. And in turn, if you accomplish those things with a player, your franchise quarterback is your leader, right? How many teams in the NFL have a quarterback that we can point to and say, that's a franchise quarterback that is not a significant leader, that is not the face of that team, right? They tried to shoehorn Levis into that. He wasn't that.
Ironically enough, this was an example that you could cite with Tannehill, but Tannehill still brought more to the table. He had experience in a different market, leading a different team, and was able to carry that over.
Maybe Kyler Murray, right? You could question some of those things with some of the issues that have popped up in Kyler Murray's career. He is the franchise quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals, but how long ago was it that we were talking about them putting a clause in his contract to make sure he was watching film?
Well, because isn't he now a Call of Duty sponsored athlete?
So,
I'm pretty sure.
So it's different for everybody, but Cam Ward, theoretically, can grow more organically into that role, right? He carries over a responsibility that he had in college. That he was that guy at every stop in his college career.
Well,
he has to be a good player first and foremost, because you can't be a good leader if you're not a good player.
Yeah, but on the front end, and I hate to so with Levis, we had a variety of different things coming in, right? We had and I don't want to dwell too much on this leadership thing because I think it's a tired narrative, even though they're clearly doing as much as they can humanly possible.
Clearly, it's an important one
to address. Well, yeah, because it was a disaster last year on multiple fronts. But Levis coming in, you had the commercials, you had the mayonnaise cologne, you had all these different things. All these different jazz hands around the Will Levis experience prior to Will Levis doing anything of substance other than the Atlanta Falcons game, where Cam Ward is just no frills, right? It's just the work. No drama around when he's going to sign the rookie deal. The rookie deal is already signed. Now it's just about the work. And so that at the core of it is what you are looking for, and at least a part of your leadership brain trust that way, because it's too big of an undertaking, an NFL football team, for it just to be on one person, even though the quarterback is going to shoulder the vast majority of that burden.
Speaking of work, you should skip it on Monday, June 9th, for the 104.5 The Zone 2025 Golf Classic presented by Ferguson.
Aren't I already?
At Nashville Golf and Athletic Club. I'm not talking to you, but the disrespect to the listener. Again, Monday, June 9th, located in the heart of Cool Springs, this historic golf course features breathtaking panoramic views of the beautiful Middle Tennessee countryside. So purchase your team today. Choose between 2 flights, 8 a.m. or 1 p.m. Spend the day teeing off with us. Every show will be out there. Robert and I will be holding down this portion of our daily programming. Teams are limited, though. They're running out. So go to 1045thezone.com to join us and get your team today.
What am I going to do on that Monday?
I don't know. Not my problem. Brian Callahan also talked. This generated a little bit of noise. The aggregators jumped on this as he talked about Cam Ward and Will Levis and how they're splitting reps in this phase of the offseason program.
Right now, it's all evenly split. We're not competing right now. It'll change probably a little bit when we get to the actual OTAs and we got 7-on-7 and some teamwork and stuff like that. But right now, there's, really not going against anybody. So we just roll through it. They're probably roughly about even all the way through, which is pretty standard for this time of year.
All right, so that's a pretty much non-answer that garnered the most amount of internet traffic based on what I saw, because he's the number 1 overall pick, and Will Levis is obviously an embattled figure, both here and abroad, but domestically, I guess is the word that I should use. He
abroad, yeah. The folks in Turkey are talking about.
I mean, I don't know. There's probably pissed off London Titans fans about
maybe
the whole
Sheamus
Levis.
can tell us how they feel about Levis in Ireland now, who apparently represents the Titans.
Yes, so we will do that at 11:20 with Sheamus. I guess I don't care about it yet. If it is still a thing by the time we get reasonably into training camp, then I'm going to be pissed.
Yes, I'm with you.
Don't waste their time. Don't waste our time. Don't waste the fans' time with this nonsense. But the way that it's been explained to me, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, is, well, what do you do if you're trying to move a player like Will Levis? You try to make him look as viable as humanly possible, right?
He has to play in the preseason.
He absolutely must play. He must practice. He must compete. He must show that he is somebody worth acquiring if, for example, you're like the New Orleans Saints and you're down a Jake Haener in a questionable quarterback competition anyway. And I'm not saying that Levis in New Orleans makes sense, but anybody that is in need or maybe not totally satisfied post-draft with their quarterback room, that has to be a player that looks attractive to 31 other or, some semblance of 31 other teams by the time you get through the bulk of the preseason. So anything that they can do to career rehab Will Levis as much as can be done in the next couple of months, I'm okay with it until we get to training camp, and then you give Cam Ward all those damn snaps.
They're not doing ones versus twos, right? They're not doing offense versus defense. What reps are they doing right now? Reps of tug of war? Reps of I'm trying to think of any other Robert I can't remember what Robert said his was. Mine was always 10 telephone. That's what comes to mind for me. What was your favorite team building exercise when you were at summer camp
I
or
hated
something?
all of them.
I don't imagine you ever went to summer camp. I feel like you were just holed up in your mansion or something.
They did try to send me to summer camp once, and then I refused to go.
Just being outside for 5 minutes, you were like, no, I want to go home.
No, it's not even the outdoors thing. It was like one of these dirty YMCA type of things that I don't want anything to do with mouth-breathing children that I have no business being around. It's fine. I'll take the fine on that.
The three-legged races,
what's the parachute thing? Is it just called parachute?
Yeah. That's more of a gym class thing.
Okay,
but
well, that's as close as I got.
You really are the worst. You know that?
Me?
Yes.
You look like a
I
dirty
don't like
YMCA.
it, Mama. They don't have caviar at camp.
I'm not getting in that pool under no circumstances. Do you know how many kids peed in that pool?
The YMCA pool was elite when you were ages 5 to 8.
Yeah, I'm good. Take me to the club. I'm good. What else you got?
Nothing.
Very good. So, I feel all caught up on, we didn't talk about the division of labor of the running backs, what they're looking to kind of prime more out. Well, Tajay Spears has to be available for there to be more of a division of labor with Tony Pollard, but I know Tony Pollard and Brian Callahan spoke about that as well. I also want to get into their defensive front situation, and we have some Greg Cosell audio that we'll get into tomorrow on Femi Oladejo that I think you're going to appreciate or enjoy or be interested in as to how we, at least on the front end, envision them trying to deploy these new pass rushers that they've got in the building. All right, coming up next, we have news on the college football playoff front regarding what?
Yes, regarding seeding for 2025 in the immediate future.
I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. Fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. I was out of town for 5 days. I feel like I'm having withdrawals. 5 days is entirely too long for me to go without Hattie B's, so perhaps that is what's on tap for lunch today. It should be at least in your consideration. If you are thinking about your lunch plans, you can download the Hattie B's app. You can get it delivered to your office. If you work from home, you can do that too. There's a free dessert for you if you are ordering via the app for the first time, HattieB.com or any one of their wonderful Middle Tennessee locations.
They brought it to us for lunch on Monday, which was lovely.
Did they?
And
was that the salad thing?
It was fantastic. And I took my cousin Antonio to Hattie B's for the first time.
What did you think of that? Because he is
enjoyed it.
Culinary student?
He graduated culinary school in Italy.
Okay.
And he is here just trying to get experience in the restaurant business and learn English in America. And he came to Nashville.
Sent him to Birmingham.
Hey, he's at the nicest Italian restaurant in
culinary
Birmingham.
school in Italy. So I'm going to send you to Birmingham, Alabama.
That's right. That's right. It's the natural next step. He wanted to try all the soul food he could.
Good.
And he has greatly enjoyed it.
Well, I'm very happy to hear that. It was fun hanging out with him and your pops for a couple of hours on, what was that, Saturday, I believe? So I'm glad they had a good trip. Major changes potentially on the horizon for the college football playoff, which is not something we necessarily anticipated in terms of the number of teams, but according to the reporting of Ross Dellinger, who is so good at this at Yahoo Sports, the college football playoff executives have scheduled a call for some point today. In fact, I imagine it was this morning, or at least sometime this morning, so perhaps we will have more news on it by the end of the show, where they are expected to adopt a straight seeding model. So that's a significant change from what the current format is, which it awards the 4 first-round byes to the highest-ranking conference champions, which was, of course, of some debate. And I think, the first ever 12-team college football playoff, we would consider it a success, right? I know people bitched about the blowouts in the first round, but I don't know. What did you expect SMU to look like in the first round of the college football playoff once they're going against Big Ten competition and things of that nature? Like, some of this was always going to look that way. There's playoff blowouts in every postseason. I mean, the NBA is a great example of that. There's blowouts all over the place in the first round, and then things start to even out as you get further and further and as the competition gets better. But the straight seeding model is expected to be adopted, or at least voted on, in time for next season's playoff, which, I don't know, is that a complication? Like, that doesn't necessarily change anything about how schools or programs are going to prepare for the upcoming college football season or potentially the playoff. It's not like one of those things that you say and then it's easier said than done, right? They just have to change the format.
Yes. It would be another step in the learning process of what the best version of this is, as we desperately try to find a way to do that with everybody on the same page, as there's a ton of dispute right now in division between power conferences in this long-discussed 16-team format that is set to start with the 2026 playoff and beyond, that the Big Ten and SEC are proposing, which is the 4-4-2-2-1. 4 SEC teams, 4 Big Ten teams get auto bids, 2 Big 12 teams, 2 ACC teams, 1 G5 team. And for obvious reasons, the ACC and Big 12 aren't so keen on the idea of the SEC and Big Ten having double the automatic qualifiers that they have. You understand the SEC and Big Ten stance on it and why they believe that they are deserving of it. But it's a whole thing right now. Hopefully, they can hash out the straight seeding model for the 2025 playoff while they continue to argue amongst themselves about what the 16-team format should look like in 2026 and beyond. Tennessee fans, I'm sure, will shake their fists at the sky for this, because if this seeding model had been in place last year, you wouldn't have been playing Ohio State on the road, the team that eventually won the national title like a buzzsaw through the rest of the field. You would have been playing SMU, and you would have had them at home. So that obviously would change the dynamic. You would not have had Oregon.
Would they have also taken their shirts off to run across the field and then promptly put their shirts back on?
Probably not. So
embarrassing for the both of you.
Obviously, last year, I think like SEC teams, when you're going north of the Mason-Dixon line, let's stop.
Go play football.
Let's stop with the performative, take your shirt off stuff. obviously last year, the top 4 seeds were the highest ranked conference champs. So you had Arizona State, who was the number 12 team in the country with the final CFP ranking, as a top 4 seed. Now, that did end up giving us a classic of a game in their crazy comeback against Texas, going into overtime, the legendary Cam Scadaboo performance that kind of etched his name into college football history. But nonetheless, I think we are all in agreement that a straight seeding model last year would have had just the top 4 seeds, regardless of if you won your conference or not, as the top 4 seeds in the playoff field. So Oregon 1, Georgia 2, Texas 3, Penn State 4. Those would have been your top 4 seeds. Notre Dame would have played Arizona State. Ohio State would have played Alabama in this case. And Tennessee would have played SMU. Indiana would have played Boise State.
Now, the question that would immediately come to, I think, most people's minds, or maybe not the first question, but at least the second or third question is, what about the money? As far as the seeding for the first round bye goes. And Ross Dellinger followed this up with another tweet this morning about the current 12-team format designates the top 4 seeds to the 4 best conference champions. A straight seeding model seeds teams by the committee's rankings, which we've discussed. The financial compromise distributes the same revenue, $8 million, to the 4 champions, even if they are not inside the top 4. So that's the compromise on the financial side of things to make sure that everybody's still getting the expected amount of money should they finish as a conference champion that way.
Well, I guess my question on this, because I mentioned Alabama, who was the 11th ranked team but didn't get in because Clemson was a conference champion and they were ranked 16th, but they got in because that was an automatic qualifier. I guess my question is, would Clemson still get that automatic qualifying bid? Like, if you win your conference, do you still automatically qualify if we're doing the straight seeding format?
That's not necessarily clear, at least, because Dellinger hasn't written an article about this with additional detail. It was just a series of tweets this morning about here's what's happening, here's what to expect, here are the potential compromises or some of the answers to the questions that you might frequently ask.
He says, however, if an agreement is reached on a format for 2026 and beyond, it may pave the way to move to what is termed a straight seeding format for the 2025 playoff, a 12-team bracket that for now designates the top 4 seeds to the highest-ranked conference champions. Under straight seeding, teams are slotted directly based on the selection committee's rankings.
So Clemson in.
That's what it sounds. Well, no. From that, it would be no, because he's saying for now, the top 4 seeds go to the highest ranked conference champions. Under straight seeding, teams are slotted directly based on the committee's rankings, 1 through 12.
Right, and I'm sorry, where was Clemson ranked?
16th. But they won the ACC,
okay.
And they weren't a top 4 seed, but they were an automatic qualifier because they won the ACC. Dellinger does say, like you mentioned, that the distribution would still be $8 million to the 4 highest ranked conference champs. Even if they're not inside the top 4, even if they're not a top 4 seed.
I just can't imagine they'd leave out the ACC champion, even if they finish 16th.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I'm unclear on. I guess if the money is being distributed to the 4 highest-ranked conference champs, even though they're not top 4 seeds, the 4 highest-ranked conference champs will be in the top 12. I mean, that was the case last year. The lowest ranked was Arizona State at 12. But I'm unclear on if that automatic qualifier remains for conference champions, for the Power 4 conferences and the best G5.
All right, so I'll defer to you on this, or either of you, given your investment in Tennessee. Since it's only temporary before we move to 16, do you have a preference? Would you rather it just stay the same, or are you down for the straight seeding model? To me, it really doesn't make a difference one way or the other. I'm just interested in the best college football teams competing for the national championship.
Straight seeding is the way we need to go, for sure. And I don't think this thing needs to expand to 16 teams. Obviously, it's going to, and I get that. I also understand why the SEC and Big Ten are leveraging their position the way that they are. I also don't love this idea of 4 SEC teams, 4 Big Ten teams, no matter what, even if that could benefit Tennessee, which it would. It would benefit a lot of SEC teams for obvious reasons. but it's just this never-ending road of the expansion and adjustment. It's like, what is the dividing line? When do we reach a stopping point? And the answer feels like never at the moment.
When you have the two super conferences that we're probably trending towards, and when, a bunch of different teams that you don't consider in the SEC or Big Ten right now become SEC or Big Ten properties.
Yeah, it's the no end in sight that makes this frustrating. But yes, I would prefer the straight seeding method. Although I did enjoy the chaos of trying to do the math and feel like you're writing an equation on a whiteboard.
Yeah, famously, this show excels
Arizona
at math.
State, the 12th team, but they're going to win the Big 12, so they're a top 4 seed. So who do they play in this case? Well, Clemson's outside of the top 12, but they're winning the ACC, so they have to be in. I kind of enjoyed that craziness, but no, straight seeding is the better way to go.
All right, so we'll stick with college football playoff and talk about the teams that did make the playoff last year. Tennessee, obviously in danger of missing the playoff this year, given the changes around that roster specifically, not just Nico Iamaleava. So we will take a look at last year's college football playoff field and see which teams expect to fall the furthest from grace. Sheamus will also join us, expected to join us in the second hour, and we'll talk more about the Zakai Ziegler lawsuit at 12:20 today with the show's resident attorney, Dan Lust, at 12:20. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
Five minutes until 11 o'clock. That means it's time for you to start thinking about where you're headed for lunch today. The answer, Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Visit any one of their Middle Tennessee locations. There's one near you. The Factory at Franklin, Lower Broadway, Melrose, Midtown, Nashville West, even the Nashville Airport when you're flying in and out of town. It's open daily at 11 a.m., except the Factory at Franklin, open at 7 a.m. on weekends for breakfast. Got somebody in town, want to take them to a Nashville brunch? What better way than to take them to a hot chicken brunch? Hattie B's is a family-run restaurant serving up your favorite Southern food and authentic Nashville hot chicken. Cook to order, add your spice level, hot or not, whatever works for you, and the best sides in town. If you're like me, the sides, critically important, the pimento mac and cheese, my personal favorite. You want to skip the line, order for delivery, download the Hattie B's app. You get a free dessert just by doing so. You can also bring the heat to your event, party, wedding, corporate function. Let Hattie be your guest of honor. HattieB.com and download the Hattie B's app today. It is 11:01. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Titans officially signed quarterback and number 1 overall pick Cam Ward to his rookie contract on Wednesday, a fully guaranteed 4-year deal worth $48.75 million, including a $32 million signing bonus. SEC baseball tournament continues in Hoover. Tennessee's bats came alive in a 15-10 win over Bama on Wednesday, and the Vols will face 1-seed Texas this afternoon. That game set for 3 p.m. Starting right now, Auburn and Texas A&M down in Hoover. Vanderbilt begins its campaign tonight against Oklahoma at 6:30. And in NFL news, on Wednesday, Indianapolis Colts owner Jim Irsay passed away peacefully in his sleep, according to a statement by Colts COO Pete Ward. Irsay was 65 years old. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
So we were just talking a little college football playoff, given that the news, I guess, I don't know if it's quite the news of the day. The news of the day is the New York Knicks choking like dogs against the Indiana Pacers last night in Madison Square Garden in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. But for us, college football playoff news is always relevant, obviously, given Tennessee's debut appearance last year and the question marks that we have around the Vols football program, given just general everything that's happened in the last, 3 months at this point in time. Not just Nico Iamaleava's departure, but all the attrition that the roster was already preparing for and how that was going to shape up for them in the what's their win-loss total? Have you looked at this, Futures? I bet
for Tennessee?
Yeah, I bet it's 8.5.
That's exactly what it is.
Is it? Okay. Under or over 8.5 wins for the Vols in 2025 is a very difficult question.
Yeah, because going over, you're saying 9-3 or better, which almost feels like best case scenario. Like if Josh Heupel pulls off 9-3, only taking a 1-game step back, losing what you're losing and the fiasco with your quarterback, then it would be a huge achievement for Josh Heupel. But there is this weird sort of gap year feeling to 2025, similar to 2023 for Tennessee with Joe Milton, right? Now, you thought if Joe Milton could reach his ceiling as a quarterback, maybe something special will happen here. But 2023 ended up being a step back from 2022 by multiple games, but Tennessee fans weren't up in arms about it because Nico was coming down the pipe. It felt like a gap year where the defense really improved and you're getting better in recruiting and talent acquisition. 2025 has the makings of that for the Vols with Faison Brandon coming down the pipe, who's now the number 1 overall player in the country, according to 247 Sports, the quarterback.
Shouldn't you kind of be prepared for a gap year in this new world? I guess it's not really super new, but this new era of college sports. Like, I think assuming year-over-year competitiveness, and maybe that's not something that college football fans are doing, and it's new to me, obviously, with Indiana's presence in all of this and kind of looking around as to who's going to be the next Indiana. But I'm just going to assume that just because you made the college football playoff in what this world is right now, with all the movement, with the transfer portal, with name, image, and likeness and everything that has brought, that you almost have to prepare for a gap year once you make the college football playoff. Maybe the Ohio States of the world don't have to worry about this, the Georgias, Texas sitting at the top of the heap. But for everybody else who's vying for that top 3 or 4 level of stature, like, I almost think that you should have baked into your expectations, yeah, okay, we'll make it this year. We'll make it in 24, 25, regardless of what happened for Tennessee. There's probably going to be some setbacks here that may not see us competing the way that we expected to compete in a different world where year over year you thought you were going to be a top 25 program, arguably a top 10 program if you were Alabama, Georgia, or the like.
There are only a few programs where the baseline expectation, programs that made the playoff last year, where the baseline is to elevate from what you did. Like, that is, no, that's where the pressure is on. The pressure is not on Josh Heupel to, you made the playoff next year, so this year you better go, you better win a couple games. Like, everybody kind of understands the context of what's happening with Tennessee right now. That's the long-term pressure without
Vols fans writ large are that kind of realistic?
Look, if Vols fans are going into 2025 saying, yeah, we damn well better win 10 games again and win a couple games in the playoff, then they're not paying attention. And Vols fans, as crazy as they might be, do pay attention to their team with what's happening. So I do think that we can all have a good understanding of what place Tennessee is in right now. The only programs, to me, that legitimately their fan base can sit there and say, okay, we need to elevate this year with what we have coming back, would be Texas with Arch Manning. Right? I mean, they're going to be right up there as a favorite for the college football playoff. In fact, Jackson, would you be able to pull up national championship favorites per FanDuel right now and see how this matches up? It would be Texas. It would be Penn State, who brings back Drew Aller, who added to the wide receiver room in the way that they haven't really under James Franklin, who returns a lot and really elevated in terms of their coordinator spots on both sides of the ball, better than almost anybody in the country, especially on defense with Jim Knowles coming over to call plays, and Clemson, who's expected to take a big step forward. Will have one of the best talent profiles in the country with Cade Klubnik. Oh, and Dabo Swinney's taking transfers now. He's only taking like 3, but he's taking transfers now.
That's fine.
And Cade Klubnik could be a guy in that discussion for the number 1 overall pick. Apart from that, of the teams that made it last year, Boise State is always going to be one of those teams in the G5 discussion, but obviously you lose the supernova that is Ashton Genty. Indiana, I mean, you tell me. We'll see how sustainable that is. I'd be lying if I knew anything about Indiana's schedule and how different it is from last year, which obviously was favorable and allowed them to make that crazy leap in year 1 of the Frank Signetti era.
I mean, you got to tell me how you feel about the Cal quarterback, Fernando Mendoza. I know that he had a bit of a resurgence or
he's a good player.
A come up last year, given Cal's early success, and then that kind of petered out.
But it's be crazy for Indiana fans to have that expectation, right? So
again, I know you don't believe me when I say this, but like it's such a fad thing.
I understand
for that state.
I understand.
It'll defer back to, okay, what's Notre Dame going to do to replace Riley Leonard? And then, Indiana's here again? Okay.
Yeah. But, Ohio State is going to be one of the more talented teams in the country. Jeremiah Smith will probably be the best player in the country. They've got a quarterback battle on their hands right now. Oregon has to replace Dylan Gabriel. Dante Moore is a former 5-star. They're going to be loaded once again. Georgia, we understand, reloads. Jackson, were you able to find the favorites?
So I have the top 12 favorites right in front of me. 7 of them made the postseason last year. The top 5 is Texas, Ohio State, Georgia, Oregon, and Penn State.
There you go. So maybe half the field that comes from last year, that less than half the field that didn't win it last year, coming into 2025 saying the expectation is to elevate. Whereas Tennessee, Indiana, Boise, SMU, even Arizona State, who returns their quarterback, and Kenny Dillingham is one of the most enjoyable young coaches in college football to watch with his rise, and they're in a wide open conference. But those programs, you kind of have this understanding of what they're up against to get back into it and elevate from what they did last year.
Tennessee is 12th.
So I wouldn't say that, like, if you looked at the 12-team field from last year, and all these different programs, assuming turnover everywhere, understanding that the top of the heap is going to remain the top of the heap until, unless something disastrous happens. But all the way through, and I'm just looking at it based on how they were, based on the bracket last year, Clemson, Texas, Arizona State, Tennessee, Ohio State, Oregon, SMU, Penn State, Boise State, Indiana, Notre Dame, Georgia. Nobody is going to look at that field and say, all right, of the teams that made the college football playoff last year, Tennessee is the most likely to miss a 12-team playoff again because, Arizona State, you said, is bringing back their quarterback.
Sam Leavitt, yep.
Boise State seems to be the most suspect, given, I wouldn't pretend to know anything about Boise State recruiting a transfer, but to lose Ashton Genty is going to knock them, and they were already in a situation where they were up against it last year when they got the first-round bye, which was controversial, and then ended up getting routed by Penn State. So it's probably between Boise State and SMU as who's most likely to miss the college football playoff from last year's field, but Tennessee's got to be in that conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Of the Power 4 teams that made it last year.
Let's keep it Power 4.
Well, SMU is a Power 4 team. Arizona State is a Power 4 team. But Tennessee is right in the thick of that discussion. Of the SEC teams, they're absolutely at the bottom of that list, right? Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, the 3 SEC teams that made it last year. Tennessee is probably by a large margin the least likely to make it back of those 3, given the circumstances. And Texas will have the highest expectation placed on them out of those 3.
How are you two feeling about this college football season? Like, is it just, I don't know, house money given circumstances? Like what you just articulated for the rest of the fan base?
It's lacking kind of the pressure that went into last year.
But doesn't that kind of suck? Like, I'm not trying to,
more or less. I mean, it's
fear traffic or
no. It's kind of this fun mystery box of okay, let's see what happens here.
I wouldn't assume if you told me that I was getting ready for an Indiana basketball season that was a mystery box, I would not enjoy that.
Oh well, I mean, normally they're just terrible. So
right, but at least I know. At least I know on the front end, so I know I'm just signing up for a 4-month headache. I don't want to be gaslit into thinking that I have hope about my team, which I know is going nowhere.
Well, it's a situation where you're not looking forward to the season in the sense of, okay, here we go. This team's a contender. This team's got all these pieces in place. We know what we have at this spot at receiver and what we have at quarterback. There's so much talent, but almost all of it is unproven. You look at who's replacing James Pierce Jr., Joshua Josephs, Jordan Ross, Caleb Herring, all blue chip 4-5-star players coming out of high school that haven't shown it yet on a consistent basis. Josephs is the one that's played the most ball, but the production hasn't matched. And we've seen the flashes. And, there was a point where we thought Joshua Josephs a couple years ago was going to be a better player than James Pierce. And then James Pierce raced by him to become a first-round pick. Same with the wide receiver spot. Mike Matthews, the 5-star, Chris Brazzell, and all these guys that there is excitement behind who they are as players, but they haven't shown it yet on a consistent basis. And then, obviously, the quarterback position is a complete and total mystery box. So it's not this sense of dread of we're going to be terrible unless you're Joseph, who's the most negative Vol fan I've ever met in my life.
Well, yeah, but that's just because of the way he looks. Right? He just looks like a sniveling coward a little bit.
Oh, damn.
That was so...
Sniveling coward was
That's
just
nicer than what I usually say about it.
That was a crazy stray.
Yeah, but look at him. Does he not look like he would lack spine in almost every situation that he was possibly presented in?
So unnecessarily mean to Joseph right now.
Killing of a lizard in a copy machine, which is probably something behavior to pay attention to, given that that's a hallmark of a serial killer.
Better watch out. He might be your boss one day.
Highly unlikely.
So it's just this intriguing little mystery box of no idea what we're going to get. Feel confident that it's not going to be a bottoming out. You feel confident enough in Heupel's program that that's not going to be one of the options in the mystery box. So it makes you a little less scared to open it. And it makes you a little excited to see what you're going to get. Maybe you get something that is pleasantly surprising from the quarterback position and how this offense comes together. I don't know, but it does make me slightly excited for the season in a weird way that's very different from last year.
Pardon my take, when Big Cat ranks NFL teams, there's that category that says frisky but fun. That's how I kind of categorize Tennessee this season. It is the strangest excitement for a football season I've probably felt.
FBF.
Frisky but fun.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I hope for your sake, because I don't know what I genuinely have no idea what the Titans are going to be in 2024.
I think they could also be FBS.
See, that's a much more dangerous mystery box because it could go a million different ways. I feel confident that I won't open the Vols mystery box to 3-9. I'm not going to sit here with any degree of confidence that I won't open the Titans mystery box to the tune of...
Don't make me think about a 3-9 Titans season. I don't even want to have that
I don't think it's on the table.
I just came back from vacation. Don't do that to me.
It's
don't
all
put me in that
on the table.
Don't do that.
It's all on the table.
All right. Speaking of the Titans, we've got a Titans super fan and WWE superstar. Sheamus is going to join us coming up next because the Titans have declared for the first time an international market where they are able to license their wares, and it is Ireland, ironically enough. So we'll talk to Sheamus about that and a great many other things coming up next. Welcome back to the show. Fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. I'm going to be joined by Sheamus here in just a little while. 615-737-1045 is the number. Are you have you done your WWE research? Are we talking wrestling with WWE superstar Sheamus?
It is a shame that our resident WWE expert is not here. Robert is bummed to be missing this. I know that for sure.
He's on vacation. I'm sure he's fine.
He is. But Robert is, I wouldn't be surprised if Robert's listening right now. You know?
Yeah. You don't listen to the show when you're
absolutely not.
Under no circumstances.
That's one
the
thing.
only reason I know about things that happened on the show, like apparently Robert's ability or inability to come up with the word inequity, is because we have narcs in our audience and because they will immediately tweet me when the two of you do something wrong.
Well, we were talking about the opposite of equity as it relates to when someone builds up equity, like in an accounting sense, not in terms of imbalance or inequality. So the opposite of equity in that case would be liabilities, right? As we were talking about the liability the Titans offensive line has built up with this fan base, with how much they have to prove next year. So kind of wrong, but not totally wrong. That is one thing I will say I'm good at, is when I'm not here, is shutting out anything that's happening here.
The one time I actively tried to do that, I deleted Twitter, and then you had to let me back into my Twitter account because the ruse that you've been posing. Did you post the polls from your own Twitter account while I was gone, or were you doing that for mine too?
Of course I did. I deleted your Twitter account from my phone a long time ago.
0% chance.
So yeah, I am curious to talk to Sheamus about this because the Titans have opposition here. Like, they're not the only NFL team that got assigned to Ireland. And there are some pretty significant NFL franchises that also have rights to engage in marketing and commercial opportunities in the beautiful country of Ireland. They are the Packers, the Chiefs, the Steelers, and the Jets and the Jags. So Ireland got some of the NFL's best and some of its worst.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of that going around. I am efforting the meeting ID, apparently, for Sheamus, which I'm going to text to him right now so that he can pop in the Zoom and we can chat with him about these very same things. He's an interesting figure in all this because he's been in Nashville for quite some time. And I'm curious to know about his Titans fandom. I'm sure he's talked about it in other platforms, but I'm looking forward to finding out more about how it was that he came to land on this particular football team, if Nashville was just where he landed and he decided to adopt the local teams, and how much interest there is in American football at all. Or, I mean, the Irish can be known to enjoy a dust-up from time to time. I don't know if American football plays into that theme. I know that they have tried. They have played these games internationally before, and like last year's college, wasn't the college football season opener in Ireland with Boston College and Florida State?
Yes, it was.
That is something that I'm not entirely sure why they're trying to force American football onto the Irish that way. But, I mean, if it gets the Titans to finally market themselves internationally or to try and expand their brand, I think there's no reason to not do it, right?
We talked about this earlier this week when we learned about all of these countries getting assigned certain teams. I don't know what Nigeria did to the NFL to get one team and it be the Cleveland Browns. Other countries only got one team. South Korea, Japan, China got the Rams. Colombia got the Dolphins. France got the Saints. Makes sense. Nigeria gets the Cleveland Browns and only the Cleveland Browns. So I don't know.
And there's some great Nigerian football players.
Right. There really is a ton of Nigerian Americans in the National Football League. So why do we do Nigeria like that?
Well, we can debate these things at another time. Sheamus, WWE superstar, joins us now on 104.5 The Zone. We're very pleased to have him. We appreciate you making the time, boss man. Oh, might have a little bit of robo voice going there for Sheamus. We'll see if we can't clean that up and touch base. Are you able to hear us clearly, or is it just on our end? Yeah. Okay. This is ill-fated. It seems.
No.
Maybe we just have him call.
It's a shame.
Don't
for
laugh
us.
at your own joke. Don't laugh at your own joke right now. Terrible. All right, Jackson. So what do we do now here? Because I don't want to waste this man's time. But I do want to speak to him about this because it is an interesting story that he's particularly and uniquely equipped to speak on. So should we just pass him the phone number? Is that what we should do here? Okay. Thank you for all your insights and analysis back there.
I'm working back here.
Are you? I'm not sure. I'm not sure entirely what's going on. So we will get him the phone number. Oh, are we good?
Yeah, I'll use my phone, mate. How's it going?
It's going fine. It's better now that we can see and hear you clearly. We appreciate you making the time today, Sheamus. I'm sorry for it being a hassle.
No, it's my fault. The laptop just wasn't cooperating, so I just went straight to my phone. So I appreciate you guys having me on. I really do. It's great to talk about Titans and the fact that they're coming to Ireland. Ireland's only exclusive NFL team, which is amazing.
So, what do you make of the international licensing with the NFL? Because it's always an interesting thing. I've done a couple of London games with the Titans now in my career covering them, and it's just fun to see the way that people gravitate towards it as an event. But I mean, are people actually interested in American football abroad?
100%, and it's basically, I think, like when I was in Ireland back in early 90s, there was a huge surge in popularity in the NFL, and then obviously there's a huge thing with Notre Dame going there and doing games, and we had the college football has been massive in Ireland, like literally getting sellout crowds all the time. But I think right now there's about 350,000 Irish NFL supporters. I saw that firsthand when I did the Pat McAfee show before College Game Day.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. Like, I was blown away because I've been out of the country for about 18 years. So seeing how popular it's getting, and my sister as well is a big sports fanatic as well. Like, they'll have NFL parties and they'll be up at 2 o'clock in the morning, up till 2 o'clock in the morning watching games. Same with, there's a bar down in Dublin called Devitt's, and they have all the NFL games on at nighttime, and all the regulars go in there as well. So it's huge, man. It's grown so much, and it's so great to see, because obviously I didn't know too much about the NFL before I came over here to America, but now being to so many Titans games and being an avid Titan fan as well, it's great to see how much it's grown over there, and the fact that like there are teams that are kind of planting their flag in UK and Ireland. And Titans are the only team who have said no, we're Ireland only. I think that's a genius move by them, because Ireland want their own team. We don't really want to be associated with the UK.
Sure, yeah.
So so it's for us. It's very, very special. And whoever made that decision to go Ireland only, genius move.
Yeah, a little bit of a complicated history there between Ireland and the United Kingdoms.
Just a little,
So I am glad to hear that, though, about the interest, Sheamus, because you work in professional sports and entertainment, I'm sure, on your end, from the professional sports angle and the entertainment angle for so many years, and you develop a bit of a cynicism about the leagues and entities making cash grabs. So I've accused the NFL in not so many situations, or in so many situations, of just doing these things to try and grift off of international broadcast rights and the money that would naturally come to it. But and I did watch your appearance, as a matter of fact, on McAfee before that Boston College Florida State game, and I was also blown away. I'm glad that you reminded me about that, about just how passionate people were to be a part of the event and then to go into the game and participate in the game that way. It was really, really cool to see.
It was amazing. It was Georgia Tech, right? Georgia Tech,
Florida State.
Not Boston College.
Florida State, yeah. So, no, it was amazing. So, one of the biggest streets we have in the city is called Dame Street. And the way they set it up was fantastic. They closed the whole street down and had the whole fan access there. That street just runs right through the middle of Dublin, swings all around. It's on the south side and swings all the way around and goes over the bridge into the north side of O'Connell Street. So that whole, it's a kind of like that road. There's different names and different areas of it, but it sweeps all the way through. And to see so many people there, and the bar is just absolutely jam-packed, incredible. But I said this to Nate Bain as well. Like when I first met him, when I first moved down to Nashville, I said that it's Like the fact that, like, I don't people realize this, but Dublin GA football is a massive sport. It's our national sport, it's hurling and football. And the colours of Dublin are dark blue and light blue and white. And that's the colours of the Tennessee Titans. I was like, dude, this is like meant to be. It's like it's you couldn't have a more like compatible team going into Dublin than the Titans with their colours in it. It's just fantastic.
Well, I certainly know the business and the team side of things are very excited about the opportunity to be in Ireland and to have the Irish people participate the way that they are already, it seems, willing and ready to participate, but just to do it on the side of the Tennessee Titans. WWE superstar Sheamus here with us on 104.5 The Zone.
Well, Sheamus, it is not just the Titans that have those marketing opportunities now in Ireland. It's also Green Bay, Jacksonville, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, and the New York Jets. So we're up against some competition here. Now, I've had multiple friends go to Dublin, and you referenced this earlier in this segment. They have told me that Dublin, in many ways, reminds them of Nashville. How can we relate the Irish audience to Nashville and make sure that they're Titans fans? What's some of that crossover? How much of the Venn diagram of Ireland and Nashville crosses over culturally to you?
Well, look, I'll tell you right away, like when I moved to Nashville, I was in Florida for 10 years. And when I moved there, like to me, it was the closest I felt to home since I've been in America since 2007. Unbelievable, mate. Like the rolling hills, the greenery, that the people down there are so nice. They're so friendly. It's a hard-working town. People work their arse off down there, but they also want to enjoy themselves. Obviously, the country music stuff as well is huge. Like country music is massive over in Ireland, always has been. I remember Garth Brooks going over there, just for one example of it, and selling out Croke Park, or again, the biggest stadium and most historic stadium in Ireland, like 3 nights in a row. It was insane. There's a huge love for that. And now you can see that too with Aer Lingus now having direct flights from Dublin over to Nashville. It's like, where was this for the last 6 years? You know what I mean? I've connections and everything. But like, it's such a similarity of culture and people that, they want to work hard, but they want to have fun. They want to listen to music. They want to be entertained, and they want to go to these games. They want to go to these sporting events and have a good time. They're not going there to kind of like to critique anything or to, people go out there to have fun. That's the same like the Nashvillians and the Irish. We want to have fun. We want to have a good time. We want to mingle. We want to make memorable moments and memorable experiences. And I know those other franchises that say they've put their foot in Ireland, but come on, I feel like that's like a couple of teams trying to put their fingers in a couple of different pies. You know what I mean? At the same time, like, what are you doing here? You 1 foot in, you 1 foot out. Like Nashville, the Titans are 2 feet into Ireland. And I think the Irish people are really, really going to respect that. And they're going to gravitate towards that. I'm a little bit disappointed that Titans aren't playing the first game there, as opposed to the Packers and the Vikings. And it's going to be a huge game, obviously, that rivalry. But I just think that, like, as I said, I will do everything in my power to express my love and back home in my home country of Ireland and Dublin to show how great this team is. And I'm going to do everything because since I came to Nashville over 7 years ago, like literally they welcomed me with open arms. I've got to do a lot of great things, like put the sword in the stone. I've got to go out with the team. I've got to do a lot of different media with the team. So I love it. It's great. And it's only down the road from me in East Nashville. But like you see the supporters there, like we haven't had the greatest season last year. But those supporters are like that. They're diehard fans. Like when I was in Tampa, for example, if the Bucks, I was never a Bucks fan. I went to one game or two, but you see like the stadium was half empty because if they weren't winning, people wouldn't show up. If the Titans aren't doing well, I feel like the supporters rally even harder to get behind a team, and that's what a true fan is. That's what a true Titan fan is, and Irish people respect that. It's not just the good times that you support the team. You support the team the bad times as well, if not even harder during the bad times. And I think I really feel like the Irish people are going to really embrace Titans with open arms, especially, and I'm probably saying this too many times, the fact that Titans are the only Irish exclusive team. That's going to mean so much to the Irish.
WWE wrestler Sheamus on with us. So a match made in heaven, Nashville and Ireland as a whole. You also have widely embraced all sports teams in Nashville, including Nashville Soccer Club, where you've been extremely present through the good and the bad. Obviously, right now, it's good on a 7-match unbeaten run, the U.S. Open Cup win in comeback fashion last night against Orlando. How much are you enjoying this run right now from Nashville Soccer Club?
It's fantastic. Myself and my wife have been season ticket holders for 4 seasons. And we just, we love to see the team do well. We're really excited when they came up. When they came to Nashville, and my wife, I couldn't be there because I was on the road with WWE, but she was at the season opener as well at the Otis. But it's fantastic, again, I just feel like Nashville, it's a big city, but also has a small city feel, just like Dublin. And it's a great community there. And to be involved and to support like the Preds and Nashville SC and, of course, the Titans, it's great. Everyone's just there to have a good time. Everyone's happy. Everyone's just enjoying themselves, that they're rallying around. It just, to me, it's the perfect city. It's the perfect city. And everyone lives there. I'm sure they agree with me on that. But Titans are doing great. Disappointing with the Preds, but you know what? The new season's coming up, especially with for the Titans as well, which I'm really excited about. I'm really excited about Cam Ward as new quarterback. I've seen him do interviews and stuff, and he's not razzmatazz, man. He's all business, and I think that you don't really see that with young players anymore. It's all like for a lot of young players, it's all about the glitz, the glamour. But Cam Ward just seems so focused, and he's ready to go to work. And I'm excited for Coach Callahan as well because, last season was tough. But he's inherited that team, and now he gets an opportunity now for the new season to sculpt his own vision and his own team, and it's going to be exciting times for Titans ahead.
No, yeah, I mean, you're speaking for the fan base, absolutely. WWE superstar Sheamus here with us on 104.5 The Zone, avid Titans fan, Preds fan, Nashville SC fan, man of both Dublin and Nashville at this point in time, because the way that he's embraced the city, certainly the city is always ready and willing to embrace people who embrace it, and that's been the case, it seems, for Sheamus as well. Anything on the WWE horizon that the audience should be looking out for or paying attention to at this point, Sheamus?
Yeah, well, I just came back 2 weeks ago. I'm having a great time. I just got in the ring with a kid called Austin Theory, and then had a one with Grayson Waller last Monday. We're on Netflix every Monday. And then, just steamrolling ahead, just kind of want to build on that momentum and keep it going. And just enjoy. I've been in WWE for 18 years. I've pretty much done it all. But I feel right now I'm as passionate as I ever have been because I just love what I do. It's what I've always wanted to do. And I'm just having a great time. And being in there with the younger talent as well is kind of keeping me young and on my toes because it's the business is always evolving. It's always grown. It's like a lot of our athletes are more and more athletic. I don't think I've ever been anywhere near as athletic as some of these talents, but it's great, man. I feel like I'm in my fourth generation since I've been there.
Yeah.
I came in when Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, and Kane were kind of on the way out. Then I was there at the John Cena, Randy Orton, and they went. Then the Shield came in, those guys, and now I'm in this new NXT generation. So I feel like I've been there for four generations, 18 years with the company. This September will be 18 years in WWE. So it's crazy to think your time has flown. But as I said, I don't feel like I've ever felt as much at home anywhere in America as I have been in Nashville. I really do. I think it's definitely prolonged my career here as well in WWE and made me really settle in for the first time.
Well, Sheamus, it's such a pleasure to speak with you. We had the opportunity to meet just briefly with Nate at Beer Olympics. I'm sure you don't remember, but good to talk to you at a more extended length here, and thanks for taking some time. I know your schedule's jam-packed these days.
It's okay. I just want to give a really big shout out to Nate Bain as well. I think when we're on the Pat McAfee show in Dublin, I made sure we gave a shout out to Nate Bain. We gave a lot of shout outs to that show, but Nate Bain is an incredible ambassador for the Tennessee Titans. Like, he's the one who brings everything together. I feel like he's the glue that kind of brings it all in and creates a great kind of like hype around the Titans every season. He's like kind of like the unsung hero who sits behind, that you don't really see. But he's the one who pulls a lot of strings and has definitely one of the reasons why I'm such a huge fan of the team as well. So big shout out to Nate Bain before I go.
Oh, absolutely. I think he's still got your Pat McAfee show shout out, making its rounds in the group text many months later. He's I know he's a good friend of yours and a good friend to a lot of people, and to your point, a great ambassador for the team and people who want to connect to the team's fans through the team. So we look forward to catching up with you at some point, maybe down the road, Sheamus, and thank you so much again for the time, sir.
Yeah, maybe we'll share a pint of Guinness down at the the Lost Paddy or up at McNamara's, wherever works for you.
I'll tell you, if I'm not a beer drinker, but with you, Sheamus, I'll drink a beer. All right, we can make that happen. I'm down.
I appreciate it, lads. Thanks a million.
That's the
Thanks,
main
Sheamus.
man, Sheamus, WWE superstar Sheamus with us, an avid Titans fan, as he mentioned. Yeah,
Shout out Nate Bain.
Always, always, always shout out to Nate Bain. I think the Tennessee Titans social media has taken a dramatic drop off a cliff since they stopped letting him handle the controls there, but he is excelled in his current role. And we, one of the, I don't say many nice things about the Titans as of late, but one of the things that they have done best is absolutely Nate Bain.
The F&M Bank chat even showing Nate some love.
He is the GOAT. 615-737-1045. If you would like to jump in on the conversation at any given point, we will talk about the only other rookie, speaking of Cam Ward, the only other rookie quarterback that can start on day one. There's some news to that effect on Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. The Tennessee Men's Clinic has helped so many dudes over the course of the last decade plus who are starting to deal with common frustrations depending where you are in your life. Many dudes start to feel tired, sluggish, just generally not like yourself and assume it's a part of the aging process. It simply does not have to be that way, whether you're dealing with low energy or performance issues. Those things aren't inevitable, and in fact, solutions exist at the Tennessee Men's Clinic. The difference for them is there's no guesswork, no gimmicks, just real science and effective treatments. Because generic online pills are overpriced and ineffective, and the thing that makes the most sense is a personalized treatment plan where multiple urologists and providers tailor solutions specifically to your body and to your goals. It's a comprehensive service, or comprehensive men's services is what they offer at the Tennessee Men's Clinic. ED treatments, testosterone, and other options many guys don't even know exist. It's affordable and accessible at the Tennessee Men's Clinic. Your consultation includes blood work, and you will get the results before you leave. So don't procrastinate. You've already probably procrastinated for too long. Now's your chance. 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090, or visit them online at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com today. Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Very much appreciate Sheamus making the time. Apparently, WWE's coming to Nashville in July. You want to go?
Oh, I'm so down.
We should take Robert.
I hate that Robert wasn't here today.
I'm not in favor of doing nice things for Robert on purpose, but we should take Robert.
No, I've never been to a WWE event. It is a bucket list thing for sure.
I have either.
Yeah,
actually.
I realized the other day that I was at AC/DC last night. That is the first concert I have ever been to at Nissan Stadium.
Really?
Yeah.
Never even a CMA Fest?
Never. Like, it hit me as I was walking in. I was thinking about it. Have I ever gone to an event at Nissan that is not a Titans game or a Nashville SC game before Geodis Park opened?
Or a Vols game. Interesting. Was it a good experience, the AC/DC concert?
I will say this about AC/DC. Brian Johnson's voice on its last legs. Angus Young, his little hops that he does across the stage, clearing just a little less air.
Yeah.
But those dudes give it everything they have.
Okay.
Honestly, shockingly fun show. Loud, all the hits. Angus Young is an absolute rock god still. That has not changed. He's still a psycho, too. And I was blown away at how much fun I had. Over 2 hours they played. There was a fireworks show at the end. It was awesome.
That's the thing about these old school rock acts. So one of my favorite concerts ever, and shocking to nobody, somebody in sports media enjoyed a Bruce Springsteen show, but I went to a Bruce Springsteen show at Wrigley. This had to have been, I was still in college. I think this might have been my sophomore year of college. So 2012, 2013. And he was at least in his 60s at this point. I think he's still performing.
Oh, for sure.
Springsteen. But it's a whole ordeal, right?
He put out an album not very long ago.
That's crazy. The man played 4 hours in light rain at Wrigley Field and just emptied the tank the entire time. I love those kind of, I know the Stones were at Nissan last year, and AC/DC and Metallica, I'm sure, was a great time. Heard a lot of good things about the Metallica show, but it's just cool to see the way that those guys still give it their all. Whereas, you may go to a concert now, if you get an hour out of the main act, you're feeling pretty good about it.
It's amazing to even want to still be on the road at that point. Those guys are...
I imagine it's a little bit of a different experience at this point in their lives.
I mean, those guys are in their 70s. Well, sure. They're not partying like they were in 1979.
You don't
but
know that.
I don't know
saying,
that.
In terms of the comfort that they now travel in.
Oh, sure. But to even want to be constantly traveling and working and playing these songs, especially in the case of AC/DC, who has been playing the song TNT now for 40 years.
Still hits.
At some point, you've got to just get sick of the song, right? You got to get tired of playing these songs, but they do every single night, and they were fantastic. My ears are still ringing from that show.
So we teased that there is one rookie quarterback, really the only rookie quarterback, not named Cam Ward, that could start in week 1 because there was a development out of New Orleans this morning. Adam Schefter with the news first, I believe. Saints quarterback Jake Haener, part of a 3-way quarterback competition to become the team's starter, suffered an oblique strain at the end of Wednesday's practice and is now expected to miss a couple of weeks per league sources. Haener likely will miss the remainder of OTAs, but is expected to be ready for the start of training camp. So Tyler Shuck was a second-round draft pick of the Saints out of Louisville this year, and that was prior to the Derek Carr situation coming about, though Derek Carr, I don't think it would have made a difference. They probably would have drafted a quarterback regardless of whether Carr had stayed on or not. I am fascinated to see what happens in New Orleans, not just because they're on the Titans schedule, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
This year, but also because interest in a potential Will Levis situation. Who needs a quarterback? Because the Titans have one to spare at minimum. And I guess there is some logic and reason to the idea of Will Levis potentially being a backup here. But I can't envision a situation where if Cam Ward could not start a game, that Will Levis is a starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans again. I can't.
Yeah, it's hard.
I cannot foresee that being the case. So
Titans host the Saints the second to last game of the season.
New Orleans, one of those weird games that may be completely meaningless for both sides, depending on where they are in the world.
It's potential. Yeah, I mean,
they've played a couple of those against the Saints in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I remember at least one for sure.
Yeah, the Khalif Raymond concussion game, for sure.
Yes.
That was meaningless. Derrick Henry set that out with a hamstring, if I remember correctly. Anyway, so New Orleans, a quarterback situation to keep an eye on. Is there a world in which Aaron Rodgers spurns the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have no options other than Aaron Rodgers at this point, to go to New Orleans?
Oh,
I don't
man,
know
that would be
who's
something.
I don't know who's in a better situation, because you could make the argument New Orleans would be better equipped to win their division.
100%. They are absolutely. I don't even think it's, you could make that argument. No, they are better equipped to win the NFC South than the Steelers right now in the AFC North. We have no concrete evidence to say that it's going to be one of these two things, but it just feels like it's going to be Steelers or retire. If you're the Saints and the Carr thing out of the way, why bring in Aaron Rodgers, especially with a first-year head coach? Just the dynamic of that feels like it could be ripe for disaster.
You're probably more likely to win your division. That probably matters.
Sure,
New Orleans has been in a weird spot. I mean, ask your boy. I want to say Jake. That's not right.
Jay.
Jay.
They're in a place where they need to dig out of it organically, though, I think. I think New Orleans it doesn't need to be patching this up with Band-Aids. It's take your lumps and grow out of it. Now you have a quarterback on a rookie deal, a second-round pick, that you're going to be kind of forced to see what he has in his rookie year and make him grow up quick. I just feel like that's the way right now for the New Orleans Saints.
Makes a lot of sense from a logic and reason standpoint, but the Saints have been very much the opposite. Basically, the entire Mickey Loomis era,
sure,
right?
But it's not a coach under pressure that you better compete for your division. I feel like there is this understanding that this is now a long haul for the Saints. The only way to get out of this cap hell the Saints are in, this giant hole, is the long haul. And Kellen Moore's in there as a first-time head coach. Aaron Rodgers coming in on top of that just feels like a bad ingredient. So it'd be shocking to me if the Saints even wanted to go that route. Feels more than likely that Tyler Shuck is going to be the only other rookie quarterback other than Cam Ward to start on day one, unless it's Spencer Rattler has this incredible camp.
Yeah, I don't know about the Spencer Rattler. I mean, I don't want to say anything definitive about anybody's career, especially somebody who's as young. Rattler be year 3?
I think so, yeah.
No, year 2.
Oh, yeah, he was a rookie last year.
Year 2 for Spencer Rattler.
He's 24.
Younger
than the guy they just drafted.
No definitive statements. Well, that also happens to be one of the oldest quarterbacks ever drafted as a rookie. No definitive statements about anybody's career, especially that early on. But it would be hard to envision a world in which Spencer Rattler, who got benched last year, and albeit under a different coaching staff, Hayner also got benched last year. It has to be Tyler Shuck. Now, there's the story of the day in sports. If it's not the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers, it's the passing of Jim Irsay, the Indianapolis Colts owner, legacy owner for a long, long time, and obviously somebody who's within the Tennessee Titans division. We're going to talk about Jim Irsay, who's a very complicated figure in the world of professional sports, coming up next.
It is 12 o'clock. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Tennessee Titans officially signed quarterback and number 1 overall pick Cam Ward to his rookie contract on Wednesday. A fully guaranteed 4-year deal worth $48.75 million, including a $32 million signing bonus. SEC baseball tournament continues in Hoover. Tennessee will take on 1 seed Texas this afternoon. First pitch at 3 p.m. The Vols knocking off Alabama yesterday, 15-10. Vanderbilt begins its campaign tonight against Oklahoma at 6:30. NBA playoffs happening tonight. It's game 2 of the Western Conference Finals in Oklahoma City. The Thunder have a 1-0 lead over the Timberwolves. Tip-off at 7:30. And in the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Florida Panthers look to take a 2-0 lead over Carolina in the Eastern Conference Finals. 7 p.m. is the puck drop in Raleigh. On Wednesday, Indianapolis Colts owner Jim Irsay passed away peacefully in his sleep, according to a statement by Colts COO Pete Ward. Irsay was only 65 years old. He had owned the Colts since the age of 37. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Now, when Virginia Hallis McCaskey passed away, the former controlling owner of the Chicago Bears, we mentioned it, but we didn't talk about it at great length. Jim Irsay, to me, feels like a different kind of a figure in the landscape of the NFL, and I do feel like that we should talk about that today, just not just because it happens to be in the same division as the Tennessee Titans, and the Titans put out a statement, as have many other NFL organizations, with the passing of Jim Irsay yesterday. Welcome back to the show. Final hour for us. Dan Lust will be on. We'll talk about the Zakai Ziegler lawsuit here in just a little bit with the resident show attorney at 12:20. But I know Titans fans and Colts fans and Jags fans and Texans fans hate one another respectively. Or, maybe it's friendly competition, maybe it's hate, whatever. I'm sure it varies from fan to fan. Irsay has been such a public figure for such a long time, and more public than just about any other NFL owner that I can think of, save Jerry Jones, that his passing, I don't know, it felt like it resonated on different levels, both on a local level here in Nashville, locally in Indianapolis, and then nationally in the way that he is being talked about. Do you have a favorite NFL owner? It's an interesting question.
Like, who's the most interesting NFL owner?
I'm asking you generally. Like, when Jerry Jones appears on your screen, does Jerry delight you? Does Jerry bother you? I mean, I'm sure it depends on who you're asking, but like many people would say, well, yeah, it's Jerry because you know Jerry more than the vast majority of these faceless, somewhat, nameless, depending on which organization you're talking about, NFL owners. Like, Amy Adams Strunk to me she is a real person, of course, but she's not authentic in the way that you might talk about Jerry or Al Davis of a different generation or Jim Irsay, right? These are quirky, personality-filled, front-facing type of individuals.
Authentic how? Like, because we feel like we don't really know Amy Adams Strunk that much?
Right. Like, to me, like, I know I have talked to Amy Adams Strunk. I have seen Amy Adams Strunk, but I don't she doesn't resonate with me as a real person in the way that Jim Irsay or Jerry Jones, who come with their own baggage, right? But their problems and their personalities are more relatable than Stan Kroenke, who Stan Kroenke is, but you don't know anything really about Stan Kroenke.
I see what you're saying.
Maybe authentic is not the way to put it.
Or not a real person. You just don't know anything about Amy Adams Strunk.
Sure, I think we do a terrible job as NFL media covering the people that actually run the league. I really do feel that way because there's so many things about these figures other than when David Tepper throws a drink at a Jags fan. You don't really know anything about the vast majority of these people. Jim Irsay.
Yeah, you're talking in circles to say we know a lot about Jim Irsay and Jerry Jones, who they are and how they operate, because they talk a lot. constantly present. They're constantly in front of cameras.
But they're also
and constantly
real.
representing their
Like
team.
when I say real, like they have real people problems.
Yeah, because we know about them.
Sure. Because they're out there, because they're discussed, because they're covered, because they address them, because Jim Irsay's last tweet before his passing yesterday was to cheer on the Indiana Pacers, who, were able to upset the New York Knicks. I find him a very fascinating figure in the world of the NFL, not just because his last move as an NFL owner was reportedly to vote against the tush push, not just because he was the only. How many people publicly came out against Dan Snyder in NFL ownership? It was just Irsay.
Yeah.
Really just Jim Irsay. Like, Jerry was asked about it. Jerry has comments on it, but nobody went after Snyder the way that Jim Irsay did. Like, he's just a different kind of a figure in sports ownership generally.
Yeah. I mean, the ones that live the most, I don't really get what you're saying, and that the ones that Jerry Jones and the Jim Irsays of the world are more authentic just because they live more public lives. I think that's what you're getting at.
Sure.
We
but
just
you can
know
also
more about
relate
them.
To more people can relate to Jim Irsay's good qualities and bad qualities than they can almost any other billionaire in sports.
Yeah, because
right?
we know about them and they're well documented.
But again, but because, Lucas, other people have the kind of problems that Jim Irsay had. He had addiction problems.
Yes.
There are plenty of people in this country who struggle with addiction. He was a bit goofy on social media. I'm sure many people in the audience have family members that could be compared to what Jim Irsay did or was doing on social media in a way that made him feel more real, if that makes sense to me. So I find he's a complicated figure in NFL ownership. And I'm almost glad that we, and I think I said this to you in the group text yesterday, and Bert and everybody else that's in there. I'm glad it didn't happen live because I get super uncomfortable with the public eulogy stuff, and I would have started making jokes about Jim Irsay, which would have been terrible and tone deaf and all these different things, even though he is low-hanging fruit, right, because of all the different things that we talk about. There is also reason to believe that the Colts under different ownership, I know his daughter is going to assume ownership of the team, but there is also reason to believe that organization could improve with more focused ownership rather than the eccentricities that Irsay brought to the table. Like, I'm sure Chris Ballard is mourning Jim Irsay. But from a professional standpoint, once you start to talk about the implications on the NFL, on the team, and the NFL at large, who's sweating more today than Chris Ballard?
Jim Irsay took over the Colts at 37 for his father. That's almost unfathomable.
It's crazy.
To own an NFL franchise at the age of 37. You know who the youngest owner in the NFL is? It's tied. I mean, there's a couple that are the same age.
Oh, that's a good question. It's what's the new Commanders owner's name?
Josh Harris and Clark Hunt are both 60.
The Chiefs owner.
The Chiefs owner.
Okay.
And the Commanders owner.
And they're the youngest.
Are 60. They're the youngest owners in the NFL. It's crazy. And Jim Irsay passing away at the age of 65. That's young, man. That's young. And like you said,
and he looked 95. Like, if you'd have told me Jim Irsay died 10 years ago, I would have
His health
believed
problems, his struggles with addiction were very well documented over the years. But just to put that into perspective, that the youngest owners in the NFL are 60. And Jim Irsay, who has owned a team for almost 30 years, just passed away at the age of 65.
And again, his struggles with substances were documented, very well documented, whether it was the arrests, whether it was some of the behavior that some people would attribute to him, some people would attribute to, okay, what's Jim Irsay doing in his private time and all these different things. But I think that, to kind of, these things can cause messes around the league. Think about the Titans, okay, before Amy was named controlling owner or came out as the controlling owner. The league was publicly pressuring that family, hey, who the hell is running your team? Beyond the lock-in for Bon Jovi stuff that was fugazi a little bit. But these things that are run by billionaires or the ultra-rich that have family attachments, a lot of these things, like, for example, the Tennessee Titans, the Indianapolis Colts, who else is a mom-and-pop shop, for lack of a better term? Like, these things have been passed down in a lot of cases through generations before, Walmart money comes in and just buys the Broncos for an outrageous sum. The Rooneys are another example of this, where they may not be the most cash flush, but they're some of the most influential people in the history of the league, right? Nobody would dispute, and except for the NFL Hall of Fame, apparently, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, that you cannot write the history of the NFL or the league or professional football at all in this country without Bud Adams. For all the different things that he was involved with, both the AFL and then the NFL, the merger, the move, all these different things, even though Bud Adams has not yet been elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame for reasons that are beyond me. I wonder what's going to happen now in Indianapolis, where it seems to be a clear path of succession. A lot of times those things can get messy, right? Especially now, Lucas, when you start to think about the additional thing that's been thrown into the mix here, that private equity can now purchase parts of teams and not majority shares or anything like that. The league is going to avoid letting the sharks come in and cost cut all over the place and run these things like corporate entities, but a lot of them are being run like corporate entities. The Titans have never felt more corporate than they do right now. You would agree? Because she's turned it over to a lot of suits.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Versus what I'm sure if you ask the fan base, where it was Bud Adams running a lot of the show, what right, wrong, or indifferent, and we don't really have a clear idea on how much or how little Amy was doing prior to what this new regime seems to be, but it feels like they have turned things over more to corporate figures, while Amy is she's never been less present, or not less present, but less visible in the day-to-day goings-on of the team than she is right now. Burke Nihils has been entitled to speak for Amy Adams. Right? Chad Brinker is running the football side of the operation.
Yeah, we don't hear from her.
Right.
But she is a real human, we confirm.
But, what I'm saying is when I say authentic, like, when's the last time you heard from Amy off script?
Oh, sure. Yeah. No, it doesn't happen.
That's what I'm saying versus Irsay, who's a complete wild card, or Jerry, who does press conferences after games or things like that. That's the only reason why I use the term real or authentic, because those people, they told you what they thought.
Yeah.
Versus all the hiding behind PR statements and everything else. It's not just doing that to single out Amy Adams Strunk or anything like that. That's the norm. That's the way that the vast majority of people in ownership operate. I just wonder what the ripple effect around the league is going to be without somebody like Jim Irsay in there he just throws a wrench into things a lot of times, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah, no matter what you think of Jim Irsay, he was influential, and you knew who he was and what he thought about anything at any given time. And, and we always, we'd poke fun at him, and there were a lot of things like with him in the Hard Knocks clip of him in the locker room with the cowboy hat, right, when the Colts lost in Jacksonville. And you could have fun with the Jim Irsay stuff in Indy, but you can't question that he ushered the best era of Colts football. And I know Titans hate that, and Titans fans hate it, and it came at the expense of many Titans teams. But
also, it drove Jim Irsay crazy at the end of his career and the end of his life, frankly, that he couldn't get the Titans for a good period of time there.
Yeah.
He was constantly talking in recent history about the fact that Lucas Oil hasn't hosted a home playoff game since 2014. It was crazy.
And yet still, the Colts, since he took over as the owner, when his father passed away, and he won a legal battle with his stepmother at the age of 37.
Yeah, again, talk about complications.
Crazy. Since that time, the Colts are one of the top 10 winningest teams in the NFL. And a lot of those wins came in the Peyton Manning era and that Super Bowl run, obviously 2 Super Bowl appearances. So regardless of what your opinion of Jim Irsay was, the NFL did lose a very influential figure today. And again, 65 or yesterday, and 65 again is just too young. It's too young.
They lost a character, right? He's just an interesting character in all of this that makes the league more interesting as a result. And it doesn't necessarily result in winning, though his tenure did result in more winning than that organization, to your point, had done prior to him taking over. Tony Dungy was on Pro Football Talk live this morning with Mike Florio and Chris Sims, and they were asking him about his best Jim Irsay story.
The best one I could tell you is it's a personal one. He did a lot for people, but I got there in 2002. My dad was getting up in age, and my dad would come to all the home games, and Mr. Irsay saw him at a couple of away games. So he said, does your dad go to every game? And I said, well, he tries to go to the ones that are close that he can get to. So if he wants to go to every game next year, tell him to just come to Indianapolis and fly with us. And 2003, he flew my dad on the team plane to every single away game. And my dad passed away at the end of the year. And my greatest memory was sitting with him and being with him at away games just because Jim Irsay, that's who he was.
How about some of like the memorabilia stuff? Were you aware when you were sitting there as the coach that he liked all this crazy stuff and loved to add to his collection?
Every now and then he would come in with something and say, hey, you just need to see this. This is, John Lennon's guitar. And you would say, what in the world? But he would do the same thing with our players. Edgerrin James gains 220 yards and he wants the shoes and he keeps them. That's just how he did. And he had some fabulous stuff that you would say, who in the world would have that? But that's who he was.
So I was sorry to see he passed yesterday. I know that there was a lot of people want to be the first to make jokes on Twitter and things like that, and there'll always be that. The internet is a terrible place for a couple of different reasons, but it's also good because it recirculated a lot of the fun Irsay stuff, like him just hanging out at owners' meetings on a golf cart while media is trying to interview him, just ripping cigs and things like that. So sorry to see that for the Irsay family. And I know Titans fans there's no love lost between the Titans and the Colts and things like that, but I'm sure plenty of people were sympathetic seeing that news yesterday as well. Dan Lust is going to join us, sports attorney, because there is a lawsuit involving Zakai Ziegler and his eligibility, his interest in returning to the University of Tennessee. We're going to ask Dan simply, what is the strength of this case in favor of Zakai? And we will do that coming up next.
We love being part of the moments that matter, which is why we're announcing employee pricing for everyone. You pay what we pay. Employee pricing at Two Rivers Ford. Locally owned, American made.
Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Dan Lust at Sports Law Lust is always good to join us when there are legal matters afoot in the world of sports. And we have Tennessee and Zakai Ziegler. Zakai Ziegler, not Tennessee and Zakai Ziegler, but Ziegler filing a lawsuit against the NCAA, and he's seeking a groundbreaking eligibility decision to try and return to the Tennessee basketball team, which has basketball implications too, of course. Dan joins us now on 104.5 The Zone. Jackson, who's filling in for our normal producer, said, "You are much more handsome than he anticipated." How do you respond?
I think he's only looking at my Twitter avatar, but I'm a real person. And you should see when I take this beard off. Way more attractive.
After a long day.
Without the beard. See, most people would argue that men are better looking with beards, but you think clean shaven is the better look for you?
See, I was imagining a fake beard, that Dan has the beard to put on airs, and after a long day of work, he gets home and he takes it off, and it's a big relief.
Oh.
You know, I have a 3 and a 5-year-old who appreciate the beard. So unless there's a reason, the beard generally stays.
Well, I'm sure that appreciation comes in the form of yanking at it from time to time. But Dan Lust is always good to join us. Again, at Sports Law Lust is where you can follow him along on the socials with all matters legal in sports. So this lawsuit between Zakai Ziegler of Tennessee and the NCAA seeking a 5th year of eligibility, as you look at the case, how strong is the case in favor of Zakai, given that there is movement in the direction of removing the red shirt tag, essentially, from collegiate athletics to just allow there to be 5 years of eligibility, but we're not quite there yet, Dan.
So I guess we'll start here. I was on with you guys maybe a month ago talking about Jeremy Pruitt. So my thoughts here are going to be somewhat similar. We have a lot of, we'll say, We'll talk about the law, we'll talk about home cooking, and we'll talk about the actual case and the precedent would set. So there's a lot of talk in this playing 4 years in a 5-year window, which, you know, that's generally the rule. And if you go through this lawsuit, which is filed in the District Court of Tennessee, it says that this 5th year is the most valuable year. And I get it. You know, Ziegler, you guys are obviously more familiar with him on the court, but, you know, 4-year starter, you know, he's a Defensive Player of the Year. He's got all the accolades, right? The question is, if you file this in the state of Tennessee, is the home cooking going to play? And is Ziegler going to get a win that we might not see in another courthouse? So I'm not necessarily one that is in favor of all these lawsuits across the country. I'm hoping there could be an NCAA mechanism, just like you used to be able to challenge, you know, and get a waiver through the normal mechanisms. I don't love all these battles being fought through the court. That said, this would be the case of first impression within the state of Tennessee. So you could tell me this could go either way. I can't tell you that sense, right? People are viewing this as being what we would call an unlawful restraint of trade, that this NCAA rule of only allowing a player 4 years of eligibility is an unfair restraint of trade. I will just say I have my hat that's a college sports purist. That's how it's done. And if we remove those guardrails around the sport, what are we left with? So I get it. I can see this being decided both ways. And I'll tell you, if it's decided in Ziegler's favor, it opens up Pandora's box, which is either good or bad, depending on the side you're on here.
I'm taking notes for what it's worth, so you can't quiz me after the fact when you throw out a term that I didn't remember, and just to make sure that because I know you have been in the education world as well at this point in your career. So I'm going to make sure that I'm ready for you this time, Dan.
I haven't said any big words yet. Don't worry.
Unlawful restraint of trade was the first phrase that got close, so it's in my notes, just so you know.
You have to change your bar of what you qualify as big words on this show, Dan.
Yes, we're very, very stupid, as you well know, because you have to handhold.
I have been told that. So yes, I'll be aware. Unlawful restraint of trade is a big word. I apologize. I was wrong. That was a big word.
It's very too many hyphens for me as one word. But I guess, Dan, my question is as to why you're not a fan of these things being metered out through the court system. Is that just because of the variance from state to state? Like, what is the crux of your issue there?
I don't know. I just feel like it puts an unfair onus on these players to find a lawyer to fight this through. And then you look back and again, full disclosure, I work with agents, I work with schools, I work with collectives, right? So I kind of work with all the parties involved here. And think about what's going on, right? We have a lawsuit challenging whether or not Ziegler can have this extra year. So we just had the NBA draft lottery, right? There's a lot of moving parts here. Collectives have to figure out their budgets, and they're not sure if Ziegler is going to be able to play or not. And you have the Spire Collective saying he's worth $4 million, right? Those millions of dollars have to be allocated either towards him or to another player. So I'm very aware, and I've told you guys this every time I come on the show, that the wheels of justice turn very slowly. There is a relief here being sought as some type of emergency relief or preliminary injunction to allow him to play. But I just don't like judges deciding what's going to happen on the playing field. Certainly that can happen in some extreme circumstances. But we have a version of this lawsuit being filed across the country. And, Buck, to your point, I think it opens up inconsistent judgments around the country, number one. And I just think this should be done at the NCAA or the conference level or some level that's not a courtroom, being decided by judges that are not sports people.
Dan Lust, sports attorney, here with us on 104.5 The Zone. All his insights and analysis, and as well as all the great work that he is doing in the world of sports, can be found at Sports Law Lust.
Well, one version of this, Dan, that we're reminded of is Vanderbilt quarterback Diego Pavia suing the NCAA for that year of eligibility that was spent at the JUCO level. He was granted that year. He's coming back next year. That has not been terribly consistent. There have been other student athletes around the country that have tried to work that same angle, and it hasn't been successful. So does that, to you, set any sort of precedent whatsoever for this Ziegler situation, or is it a completely different matter entirely?
Can I ask a question? What is going on in the waters in Tennessee? Why do you guys have so many sports law cases? What is happening?
We're just happy that we're not Cleveland at this point in our lives.
Just want to be front and center in all of this stuff, Dan.
You just don't have to be the most problematic or the most confrontational, I guess.
No, I mean, listen, I say this half jokingly, right? Like, the reason that collectives are allowed to pay players money across the country is because of this Tennessee Attorney General case. You mentioned the Diego Pavia case, Jeremy Pruitt. There's a lot of lawyers involved in the space. But
and a Tennessee state law that says they don't have to follow NCAA rules.
Well, but to your point, Dan, I do think that at least from the University of Tennessee and the litigation on their side of things, I know that's not specifically related to Ziegler or Pavia, but I do think that they are trying to have a say in how this new world is shaped from a legal standpoint.
The answer is yes. The answer is very much yes, and I support it. I support people trying to enact change, right? And mind you, I know what I just said is somewhat contradictory. I don't like these things being fought in the courtroom, but I'm hoping that the NCAA gets the message and the conferences get the message, which seems to be the case, and they do something to change it. So I just don't want this to be the norm. But Lucas, to your question, again, let's talk about, as football people, right, as sports people. Diego Pavia wins his case because he had 1 year at the JUCO level as opposed to 4 years at the Division I level. Do I think that's terribly different? Not really. I think you played 4 years of collegiate football. But if you ask the judges that are involved in these cases, they say it's very different. They say 1 year at the junior college level plus 3 at the NCAA level does not equal 4 years of football. It equals 3. Now, as a sports person, I don't know if I agree with that logic. Right. I don't think they should be treated separately. I mean, if you're an NFL scout, you're certainly looking at tape of the JUCO year, and you see a ton of throws. The question is really playing time and reps. So I don't know if those two things should be treated differently. But Lucas, what I will tell you is that judges around the court have viewed that distinction as being very significant. 1 year at JUCO plus 3 years at the NCAA level does not equal 4. They have then said in those instances that you're entitled to that 4th year, and that's why Diego Pavia won his case. So I do think it'll be relevant to the analysis here, but just, okay, Buck, take out this pencil, the pen, whatever you got.
I'm ready
for this. Is it a pen, pencil, or could it be a crayon before I assume anything?
You know what? That's not funny because I went and bought a pack of crayons the other day for
colored pencil
reasons that are that we'll discuss at a different time. But I've got my blue pen. I'm ready.
No, it's one of those, Dan, that like when you flip the switch, that there's like
I've got green on here. I've got orange. Yeah, there's a couple of different things. Hit me with it, lawyer.
I like it. So here's the. I always come with you for the facts here. What Diego Pavia did, or that case, there's two concepts in the law. There's binding precedent and persuasive precedent. Binding precedent is a rule of a court above another court within the same state. So it has to be, like we'll say linear, right? A state court decision is binding on a lower state court decision, or a federal court decision in a state is binding on another federal court within the state, or obviously the Supreme Court and the circuit courts will get there. What's happening now with Pavia is not really the same case with Ziegler. So anything that's not exactly on all fours will be viewed as something called persuasive precedent. And the whole country has looked at Pavia, and there's 50 states right across the country looking at the Pavia decision, or 49 here, and that's persuasive precedent. So I guess going back to my earliest point here that I made today is that this is not binding precedent. You could have inconsistent decisions, right? People can look at Pavia, but a judge in, we'll say, North Carolina or New York is not bound by what the Pavia court said, and they won't be bound by what the Ziegler court said. So you could have the exact same player have the exact same lawsuit, a 4-year starter at an ACC school or a Big Ten school, and that player could be granted the 5th year. So I don't love that. I'm really hoping that this pressure of inconsistent judgments and inconsistent state laws pushes states and conferences to have some more of a homogenified, framework here. I don't know how close we are, but I know this is applying pressure.
Homogenified is also in my notes at this point in time.
I think I made that up.
You may have, but Dan, it's not enough that we already knew you were smarter than us. It's that you're constantly now reminding us of that.
I tried to throw a fake word in there. You guys caught me.
Not so fast, Mr. Law Guy. All right, at Sports Law Lust is where you follow him. The host of the Conduct Detrimental podcast, of course, is where you can check him out.
So, Dan, to this Tennessee state law that was put into place officially starting on May 1st, 2025, that schools, institutions within the state do not have to follow NCAA regulations when it comes to paying players. Now, power conferences are coming in and saying, no, you do. Here's this document. You have to sign this saying that you will be on this playing field with us, or we will boot you from the conference. What's your overarching takeaway from this? Do you take that threat seriously from power conferences? What'd you make of the law itself when you saw it?
First, fact check. Homogenize was the word I was trying to say. I threw in a couple extra letters in there, so all in good faith.
Too late now.
That's why I hope you wrote it in crayon, maybe the eraser work here. But no. So the law is an interesting one. Again, to this theme of applying pressure to the NCAA, this law, Lucas, that you point out, is really designed to say, hey, irrespective of what happens in the courts, we want this rule to be able to protect schools within our state. And Tennessee is not the only state with this law. I think it's maybe a handful of states. I think it's less than 10, but in that territory. So it's really saying that the NCAA can't punish us. And then, right, should the NCAA take the bait and punish any other school around the country? So I like that, right? I like that the NCAA is being pushed here. We could talk about this House versus NCAA settlement that I think I came on your show once upon a time and I put the odds of this thing being passed at like, I don't know, I think I might have said minus 150, minus 180. You had people treating this as kind of like fact, like the equivalent of minus 1,000 or minus 2,500, which coincidentally is Scotty Scheffler's odds to make the cut, which I might have bet on in a very irresponsible manner, but who doesn't like the sweat?
Damn.
But yeah, listen, sometimes you just got to sweat these things. It's not about the profit, it's about the sweat. But I point that out to say that this House versus NCAA settlement looked like a virtual certainty that it was going to pass on April 7th. And now we're sitting here in May 22nd. We've well blown past the transfer portal. And I don't know if anybody can tell you confidently that we're still at these minus 200 levels, minus 300 levels. This thing might pass, it might not pass. But that's why this law is important to be put into effect, because it gives schools some certainty as to what's going to happen. You can't punish us in our state. And do you want to know why Tennessee did it? Because they did it, right, with their first NIL law. And Tennessee's attorney general said, the school is not being punished because of the actions of this Fire Collective, once upon a time with Nico Iamaleva, who has since departed and gone to across the country. But Tennessee state law should trump the rules of a private association, here the NCAA. So I like it, and certainly the state of Tennessee set the precedent, not that long ago, this time last year, that they are not going to be bullied by the NCAA. So I support it, and again, it's applying pressure on the conferences and the NCAA to try to create one general framework that all schools, all states have to be bound by.
Last thing for you, Dan. As long as there's not collective bargaining, which many higher-ups in the sport of college football now are desperate for at this point, there's going to be lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. And it's very easy for us to say, we just need a CBA. Just slap a CBA onto college football and everything will be fixed. How complicated is that? And I'm sorry if we're wading into a territory here when it comes to player unions that maybe isn't as much of your strong suit. But can you just give us a general idea of how much more complicated that is than it may seem at surface level in a sport where players are churned out every 4 to 5 years?
Lucas, why are you saying anything isn't my strong suit? I mean, don't tell me how high I can fly.
Far be it for me.
Did you hear how he just said Iamaleava? We found your weakness, Lost.
You know what? I got the first name right. Nico is much easier. So we'll do it. We'll do this part pretty quick. We can wade very deep into the waters if we need to. But here's the thing, right? Like I'm certainly one that doesn't love the system of 1-year contracts. I don't love how the transfer portal has basically turned everybody into a hired assassin in free agency. The only way you get around that is by some form of collective bargaining, which exists obviously at the professional level. Another fancy term for you guys, right? Non-statutory labor exemption. If the union and a league agree to something that seems to be an unfair restraint of trade, for example, like the draft, the best player in college football has to go to the worst team. That is an unfair restraint of trade. But the union agreed to it. The union, like the employees and employers, agree to it. So a lot of the bad things that people don't like in college sports right now can be done away with some form of unionization. How easy it is to get there is a very different story. At the professional level, you can, certainly organize across players and owners. That's pretty easy. But what are we supposed to do at the college level? Are we supposed to unionize across conferences? Are we supposed to unionize across schools? How about sports? How about the Ivy League Basketball Association, which almost happened with the Dartmouth case now 2 years ago, or USC football? So we've never seen this fragmented approach to unionization, which I think at some point we have to get there. But that's really the issue. 1-year contracts, salary caps in terms of what players can make. I think that's probably good for college sports, but we don't get there without a union. And that's kind of black and white. We can't put restraints of trade in place unless the players and the leagues here, quote unquote, the conferences of the schools, have to agree to it. Just this fragmented approach makes it much harder to do than it would be at the professional level.
There it is. Dan Lust at Sports Law Lust with us on 104.5 The Zone. We aren't sure why the state of Tennessee is so litigious, Dan, but we are grateful that it gives us the opportunity to catch up with you from time to time. We do appreciate you making us smarter, despite your best efforts.
I missed the Law and Order sound. Where's the soundboard guy here?
They gave it to you.
He didn't hear it.
I guess it doesn't come through the Zoom. Can he hear it now? Are we going to try it again?
There it is.
It didn't happen if you didn't hear it.
You did. The radio audience got it, but just for you, Dan, we'll do it again.
Appreciate it, gentlemen. Happy to come on and let's make sure Scotty makes the cut, so I'm not sleeping out in my car tonight.
That's a pretty safe bet, I'd say.
I mean,
let's see. He likes to sweat.
He just wants to sweat. That's all it is for Dan Lust. It's all a game at Sports Law Lust. Like I said, conduct detrimental. The podcast, always good to catch up with Danny. All right. Last call for phone calls. If you got them, we'll update some polls. We'll get out of here for the day. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. When it comes to your financial well-being, at some point you've probably lost some sleep just thinking about your finances and thinking about what level of financial investment you might have in today's marketplace where so many things seem day to day. But the folks at Trajan Wealth are there to help you through that process. If you spend as much time planning for your retirement as you do planning for your upcoming summer vacation, Trajan Wealth will make sure that you have that plan for your financial future in place, like a dream summer vacation. You want to make sure that you're budgeting for these things properly, that you have your retirement ducks in a row, and that you have your investment strategy on deck. Trajan Wealth can help you with each and every one of those things. Preparing for the future means having a good plan and making those smart investments. Trajan Wealth offers tactical investments that focus on long-term core capital preservation. So give Trajan Wealth a call today. Their number is 615 615-270-5000. It's 615-270-5000, or visit them online at TrajanWealth.com. Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. This is a paid advertisement. Last call for phone calls, if you got them. 615-737-1045. Good show today. Once we got through the technical difficulties on the Sheamus thing, that was very enjoyable.
I for a minute there, I thought it just wasn't meant to be Sheamus on the radio show, but he was great.
Well, the first situation, I believe he had an issue. There was something going on with his dog.
Yes.
Which, unfortunate.
Jonathan on the FNM Bank chat says, I don't normally learn things from this radio show, but today has been very informative and educational. We learned words like binding precedent.
You also wrote down words.
Persuasive precedent. Unfair restraint of trade.
What do they mean?
Well, that's the next step. The first step is to...
I was so scared he was going to ask me, all right, now what does it mean?
Right. Now, the first step is just to learn the existence of these terms.
Yes, these are words that can go together in a sentence and have legal meaning. We do not strive towards education. We just so happen to have a couple of particularly informed guests on today. So we are grateful for them for making you smarter with us as a vehicle, because God knows we weren't going to be able to do it successfully.
Spelling test tomorrow on these legal terms.
Oh, crush that.
Spelling, yeah. I'm
not worried about that.
Spell them. I
No,
won't
you
be able
can't.
to-
You have famously misspelled almost every word that's been lobbed at you.
What are you talking about?
I think you tried to put like an O in ayahuasca at one point.
I for sure did that. But ayahuasca's, I feel like I get a pass on that.
Is there not an O?
No, there's not.
Yeah, I don't think so. You, however, have been grifting off your 8th grade spelling bee success for how old are you now?
29, I think.
Yeah.
Breathing all over.
You're not sure. What are you, Jordan Hudson? You fudging your birth certificate so you're a year older or a year younger? He's actually 50. It's what we've determined. You watching The Studio on Apple TV?
I've watched the first 2 episodes. Like, first episode, I'm like, oh, this is my show. Yeah. I love this. Second episode was so stressful. Yes. I had so much anxiety, and I was cringing and pulling my hair out. So I'm going to come back to it because it's a good show. And I love that sort of Entourage style, documentary sort of style of
this
show.
Is Entourage, but smart. Entourage was just, let's see what stupid. Actually, drama was the best part of Entourage. But
so I will come back to The Studio. It's a good show.
I don't want to spoil anything for you, but Bryan Cranston has a moment where he asks Seth Rogen how old Seth thinks Bryan Cranston's character is. And Seth guesses somewhere in the 60s, and Bryan Cranston looks at him and says 82.
That's great.
Lucas is, in fact, 82. And, I've been accused of being the one who's over superficial as far as the aesthetics go. No, it's in fact Lucas at this point in time. Is there anything that we didn't get to that we Nashville SC.
Big win last night, U.S. Open Cup. So taking a brief break from MLS regular season play to jump back into U.S. Open Cup, a knockout round competition. They go to Orlando. They win in Orlando. That has not been done in a long time for the boys in gold. Over 2 years since that has happened. 3-2 comeback fashion. Wyatt Meyer just with an absolute banger in the 79th minute. First career goal. Nashville gets the win. They will host DC United in the quarterfinal either July 8th or 9th at Geodis Park. But for the short term, they jump back into MLS play at Toronto Saturday to keep it rolling. 7 games unbeaten, and they're a top 4 team in the Eastern Conference and pretty much in that territory where you could call Nashville Soccer Club a contender in Major League Soccer, I would say. With Inter Miami slipping the way that they are, I mean, they are catching loss after loss. The vibes are not good with Messi and friends at the moment. And Nashville just keeps climbing.
Why? What's that? Forgive me, I have not kept up.
They are a collection of very famous and talented and accomplished players with a lot of young talent in there as well. But their issue right now is an inability to track back defensively, kind of a work rate issue with some of their supremely talented stars. And Messi's buddy and old teammate, Javier Mascherano, is also their coach. So there's just some things that are not working, maybe from an accountability standpoint, and vibes are not great down there on South Beach with the Messi experience. And here's Nashville with Hani Mukhtar and Sam Surridge in great form. And they rotated the squad. Yeah, I mean, they sat all those guys, a lot of their stars yesterday, and still got the result with some of the young guys stepping up. Ahmed Qasim, Matt Corcoran, Wyatt Meyer with great performances. So vibes are good with the boys in gold right now.
I need a ruling before we go to the actual polls. We'll do an impromptu poll. D-bag or no D-bag, person who refers to the soccer team as the boys in gold, because I'm pretty sure that's the same thing that the hockey team says about them.
I've never heard the Preds do that.
I've never heard the Preds do it, but I can't lie and say I'm a fan of it.
So the ruling is D-bag.
I'm with you.
Say what you will.
Yeah.
It's the official team nickname.
Polls. The delay is always good.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Who is the most interesting NFL owner? Kenneth says David Tepper for the wrong reasons. D. Good says, now David Tepper, authentic, but in the worst possible way.
Yeah, but that's fine, because I know that's him. Like,
yeah, well, maybe it'd be better for him if he didn't. D. Good says R.I.P. Jim Irsay, who was probably the most interesting NFL owner. John
I think so. Jerry's up there, but
yeah.
Jerry's up there, but Jerry's just, I don't know. Jerry's just, Is he more interesting? Irsay, I guess they're probably comparable.
Name a bigger choke job in sports than what the Knicks did last night. Danny, of course, points out the Falcons 28-3. He points out Tannehill against the Bengals in 2021. I mean, like it or not, but in this market, that's up there with some of the biggest ones in Nashville sports history.
A choke job among, for damn near all time, but I don't know that. The Knicks doing it. I guess the Titans were at home too. Yeah, it was a really bad choke job.
Pretty rough, man. Titans. Pretty rough. 9 sacks, 1 seed. Gummy Gamer says what the Pacers will do to finish out the series, projecting a choke. I will say that.
Pacers should be favored.
If the Knicks come back and win this series, that Tyrese Halliburton choking motion at the end of the game,
it's still a choke.
It's going to be all over the place.
Sure, but when New York,
game 1 will still be a choke. But if the Knicks come back and win the series, then the Tyrese Halliburton thing's going to be everywhere.
For either of them to go on to lose the Oklahoma City Thunder, which is probably going to happen at this point in time.
Game 2 tonight against the T-Wolves, Thunder up 1-0. Which 2024 playoff team, college football playoff team, is most likely to miss the 2025 college football playoff? Tennessee getting the most votes here. 34.6% say Tennessee. Over Indiana, who got 32%, over Boise, who got 18.8%, and SMU, who got 14.6%.
I'm under no impression that Tennessee is going to be back in the college football playoff this year because I think 9 wins is a stretch. But over the rest of those is curious.
I agree with over Indiana. That doesn't seem like a sustainable year-over-year thing. SMU. That'd be tough in the ACC, but I don't know. Everything outside of Clemson's wide open in the ACC. G5 is wide open, and Boise's always going to be in that discussion.
You're not scared of Carson Beck in Miami?
We'll see. Do you want Zakai Ziegler? I mean, hell, they made it over Cam Ward's Miami last year. Do you want Zakai Ziegler back for Vol Hoops? 66.8% say yes.
It's not like
the answer is yes.
It's not a bad thing, but it does. It does present it's a good problem to have, right?
Exactly.
But it is a problem.
You want good problems, yeah. Look, you could say, put Jacoby Gillespie out at the 2. Is Jacoby Gillespie all in on that? He's very happy to be playing in his home state. He's talked about Tennessee as his dream school, but he believes he's playing point guard. But I believe yes, absolutely, they would take Zakai Ziegler back and they would find a way to make it work. I imagine they've known this was in the works and they weren't learning about it like the rest of us yesterday.
Those polls?
Those are the polls.
All right, very good. It's good to be back. We'll do it again tomorrow. Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio will join us. We'll also have some good Cosell analysis to share with you. We will do one episode of Prime Time tonight because I've been off the rest of the week. I'll see you then at 7.